There comes a moment in every man's life when the mirror no longer reflects who he is, but rather who he's forgotten. We live in a world that has lost its myths, but not its yearning for them. We scroll, we hustle, we grind. Yet deep inside, something aches. A whisper, a knowing, a pulse of ancient truth that refuses to die. Welcome to the 4 archetypes of self-mastery. King, warrior, magician, lover. Written and published by Mindful Literary, is not a manual to become someone else. It is a map to remember who you already are before the world told you who to be. Inside you live 4 ancient energies: the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. These are not roles you play, but patterns of power that shape how you love, lead, fight, create, and feel. They are not fantasies or fixed identities. They are fragments of your full self, waiting to be reunited. But beware, power without integration is chaos. Each archetype has a shadow, and mastery does not come from domination. It comes from balance, presence, and awareness. This book will not give you easy answers. It will offer you mirrors, myths, meditations, and hard questions. If you're ready to stop performing and start remembering, then step into the fire. Your inner throne is waiting. Introduction: The Forgotten Map of Self-Mastery. The crisis of identity in the modern world. Imagine walking through a busy city street, surrounded by the chatter of strangers, flashing screens, and endless deadlines. Amid this chaos, many of us feel a quiet disconnect from who we genuinely are. Modern life, with its constant distractions, fast pace, and relentless demands, tends to chip away at the connection we once had with our inner self. Over the years, this disconnect can become so ingrained that it feels like our true identity is slipping away, replaced by a collection of roles prescribed by society: worker, consumer, social media persona, but little of what truly sparks our essence remains. The importance of rediscovery lies in reclaiming that lost part of ourselves, nurturing a sense of authenticity that feels honest and aligned with who we truly are. Without this internal connection, many individuals experience feelings of emptiness, anxiety, or a sense that life is happening to them rather than through them. Rediscovering ourselves isn't about changing who we are, but reconnecting with our core, understanding what makes us feel alive, and living in alignment with that truth. It becomes a journey of peeling back layers of social conditioning to reveal what genuinely matters in our unique story, often leading to greater fulfillment and peace. It might mean stepping back from social expectations, embracing quiet moments of reflection, or simply asking ourselves honest questions about what we value most and what brings us joy. Releasing ourselves from societal molds is not always easy, but once we begin this process, things start to shift, bringing clarity, purpose, and a renewed sense of direction that feels more like living than merely existing. Modern culture emphasizes achievement, productivity, and external validation, yet often neglects the importance of inner awareness. As a result, many find themselves caught in a cycle of chasing goals that might not truly resonate with their deeper selves. This disconnect can lead to identity crises, where individuals question what they stand for or who they are beyond their roles and labels. Signs of this disconnection show up in feelings of burnout, numbness, or a sense of being lost in the shuffle of daily routines. Sometimes, people find themselves acting in ways that don't feel authentic, simply to fit in or meet external expectations. This misalignment between outer persona and inner truth creates a nagging sense that something is missing. To counter this, it helps to slow down and ask oneself simple yet profound questions. What makes my heart feel alive? When do I feel most myself? These reflections serve as bridges back to our true core, reminding us that rediscovery doesn't have to be a grand endeavor. It can begin with small, conscious acts, like journaling, stepping into nature, or practicing mindfulness, that help us listen inward and reconnect with the essence of who we are beneath societal noise. Over time, these gentle efforts can foster a stronger sense of authenticity, providing clarity in a world that constantly pushes us to conform. Understanding how modern life disconnects us also involves recognizing the ways technology and social media distort our sense of self. The curated images and idealized lifestyles we view online often create unrealistic benchmarks, leading us to judge our own lives harshly or feel inadequate. We become habitual consumers of others' highlight reels, neglecting our own unique story and qualities. This can foster feelings of envy, self-doubt, or the mistaken belief that we are incomplete without external approval. Recognizing these patterns is a crucial step in the process of re-engagement with ourselves. Instead of measuring our worth against filtered images, it's healthier to focus inward and appreciate our real, imperfect, and authentic selves. Sometimes, a simple digital detox or setting boundaries on social media use can refresh your perspective, helping you shift focus from external validation to internal recognition. Reconnecting with ourselves often requires quieting the external noise enough to hear our inner voice, which knows what genuinely resonates with our spirit. When we do this, we begin to see clearly how modern life, with all its distractions, can obscure the truth about who we are. Yet also how easily we can start peeling back those layers to rediscover our genuine identity. Why power without depth collapses? Power gained solely through superficial achievements often feels hollow and unsatisfying. People who chase fame, wealth, or status without cultivating inner strength tend to find their success fleeting and their feelings empty. For instance, a CEO might climb the corporate ladder quickly, gaining influence and recognition, but still feel a sense of emptiness after reaching the top. This is because their efforts focus mainly on external validation rather than developing personal resilience, emotional intelligence, or real understanding. When the surface cracks, due to burnout, criticism, or setbacks, their entire foundation can crumble, leaving them overwhelmed and disillusioned. This pattern isn't new. Many stories throughout history and mythology illustrate how external power that isn't rooted in inner depth eventually leads to downfall. Consider the myth of Icarus. His ambition pushed him toward the sun, but without inner awareness or humility, his wings melted, and he fell. The lesson reveals that tackling superficial success with only external bravado is fragile. It can offer quick gratification, but it won't endure the inevitable storms of life. The more people focus on outward appearances, titles, possessions, or social validation, the more they risk a collapse when challenges arise because they haven't built the necessary inner strength to withstand adversity. Burnout is another common consequence of power without depth. When effort is driven by external pressures or shallow goals, individuals often work hard without a sense of purpose or connection to what truly matters. This leads to fatigue, resentment, and a loss of passion. Over time, they may find themselves questioning whether all their achievements are worth the stress and sacrifice. Pop culture is filled with stories of celebrities or entrepreneurs who hit a peak, but then dissolve into despair or addiction. Their external headway was impressive, but their inner life remained undeveloped, making their success more of an illusion than a lasting foundation. To recognize if someone is building on superficial power, observe whether their confidence is fragile or if their identity depends heavily on external feedback. Are they easily rattled by criticism? Do they seem disconnected from a sense of purpose? If the answer is yes, then their power is likely fragile and built more on external factors than genuine inner resilience. That's a warning sign that their success might be short-lived and that they risk losing everything when circumstances shift or when internal challenges surface. Developing inner depth is what transforms fleeting success into something truly meaningful and enduring. When people cultivate qualities like self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and purpose, they create a sturdy core that withstands life's inevitable upheavals. Inner depth provides a sense of stability, groundedness, and clarity that external achievements rarely offer. For example, a leader who understands their motivations and values can navigate crises with resilience, inspiring loyalty and trust that persist beyond the immediate moment. These qualities foster authentic influence because they are rooted in trust, respect, and genuine connection rather than mere surface appearances. Creating depth involves intentionally exploring one's beliefs, fears, passions, and limitations. It requires patience and honest reflection, deliberately stepping back from external pursuits to examine what truly matters. Such self-awareness allows individuals to set goals aligned with their core values, which makes their efforts sustainable and fulfilling. When influence is based on inner strength, it's more likely to inspire others, as it emanates from a place of authenticity. This kind of influence doesn't rely solely on position or status, but on the respect earned through integrity and consistency. Furthermore, inner depth enhances resilience. When setbacks arrive, a person with substantial inner life can adapt without losing their sense of purpose. They view failures as part of growth rather than personal deficiencies. For example, a businessperson who has cultivated patience and humility can face economic downturns or criticism with calm and clarity, working through problems without desperate ego battles. This capacity to handle difficulties without falling apart is rooted in an internal foundation that no external success alone can provide. Building inner depth isn't a one-time effort, but a continuous practice. It involves cultivating curiosity about oneself, seeking meaningful connections, and embracing personal development. Meditation, journaling, mentorship, and honest feedback are tools that can help nurture depth. Importantly, awareness of one's shadow side, the tendencies that distort influence, is key to growth. Recognizing patterns like arrogance, impatience, or fear of vulnerability allows a person to address and grow beyond them, strengthening their internal foundation. When people prioritize inner depth, the effects ripple outward. Their influence becomes more authentic and enduring, and their fulfillment deepens. They find that success is less about accumulating external accolades and more about cultivating a sense of meaning that persists despite external changes. The sense of fulfillment that comes from aligning actions with internal values provides a reservoir of strength and clarity that external success alone cannot offer. Practicing regular reflection, seeking deeper understanding, and developing emotional resilience can significantly shift how one perceives and sustains power. It's worth remembering that true strength isn't about never falling, but about having the internal resources to get back up when setbacks occur. Power with depth, then, turns fleeting achievement into lasting influence, personal contentment, and a life grounded in authenticity rather than illusion. What are archetypes, and why they matter now more than ever? Imagine walking into a room filled with strangers. Within moments, you instinctively recognize certain patterns: someone with a quiet confidence, another with restless energy, a person embodying kindness without a word. These patterns aren't random. They are archetypes, deeply embedded models of human behavior and personality that appear across cultures and eras. Archetypes serve as mental templates, helping us understand ourselves and others by highlighting universal traits that transcend individual differences. From myths and fairy tales to movies and daily interactions, these recurring character types reveal how we naturally gravitate towards certain patterns of thought, emotion, and action. These patterns act like guiding maps in our subconscious, influencing choices we make, how we see the world, and the way we respond in various situations. Carl Jung, a renowned psychologist, popularized the idea that these archetypes are part of a collective unconscious, a shared mental space connecting everyone. For example, the hero archetype inspires us to overcome challenges. The caregiver calls us to nurture and protect. The rebel pushes boundaries and disrupts norms. These archetypes aren't limited to stories or myth. They live inside us, shaping our beliefs and reactions without us even realizing it. Recognizing these core patterns can give us profound insight into our own motivations and the way we relate to others. Understanding archetypes goes beyond simple recognition. They act as a lens through which we can interpret our personal experiences and social interactions. When we see a friend acting out of stubbornness or someone else stepping into a leadership role, we are witnessing archetypes in motion. These templates are like emotional and behavioral blueprints, guiding us in both subtle and obvious ways. By becoming aware of these patterns, we start to see the repetitive themes in our lives, moments of courage, fear, pride, or vulnerability, that are rooted in ancient and universal models. This awareness opens the door to personal growth, helping us identify the archetypes that dominate our inner landscape and guiding us toward more intentional choices. In a world that seems increasingly chaotic and unpredictable, having a map to navigate our inner terrain can feel like a lifeline. Archetypes act as these maps, offering clarity amid complexity by revealing underlying patterns that influence our thoughts and behaviors. When we understand which archetypes resonate with us most, perhaps the warrior when we face challenges, or the lover in our pursuit of connection, we gain valuable insight into our core motivations. Recognizing these patterns allows us to see why we react in certain ways, what drives our choices, and where our strengths and blind spots lie. In today's fast-paced world, where social roles and expectations constantly shift, knowing our archetypes helps us stay anchored. It provides a reference point for understanding ourselves amid external chaos, acting as a compass that guides us toward authenticity. For instance, if someone identifies strongly with the explorer archetype, they may feel trapped in routines or comfort zones. Harnessing this understanding can empower them to seek new experiences intentionally, rather than being pulled by subconscious impulses. Similarly, Those who resonate with the sage archetype might seek knowledge and wisdom as a way to find stability and purpose in a flood of information. Recognizing our archetypes helps us align our actions with our true selves, reducing inner conflict and fostering resilience. More practically, understanding archetypes also improves our relationships. By seeing others through the lens of their dominant patterns, we can approach conflicts with greater empathy and patience. For example, a person acting out the innocent archetype may feel overwhelmed or scared, which can be misinterpreted as stubbornness or avoidance. When we understand this, we can respond with compassion, encouraging safety rather than criticism. This awareness also guides us in setting healthier boundaries and choosing environments where our archetypes can thrive. Ultimately, viewing our personal growth through the framework of archetypes creates a clearer, more compassionate understanding of ourselves and those around us. It turns abstract concepts into practical tools to navigate life's twists and turns with intention and confidence. The dance between order, chaos, strength, love, and wisdom. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, flowing river where several currents meet, each representing a different aspect of ourselves: order, chaos, strength, love, and wisdom. These energies are not separate entities, but rather interconnected forces that influence our thoughts, emotions, and actions in subtle yet powerful ways. Sometimes one current dominates, guiding our behavior with a strong sense of structure or purpose. At other moments, the currents blend, creating a tangled swirl that feels unpredictable or overwhelming. This continual dance within us is what makes us complex, alive, and ever-changing. Order, for example, manifests in our desire for stability and predictability. It's the need to organize our surroundings, follow routines, and establish boundaries that feel safe. Chaos, on the other hand, emerges when old patterns break down or when we confront the unknown. It can feel disruptive, but also opens the door to creativity and growth. Strength anchors us, giving resilience in the face of adversity, while love powers our connections, fueling compassion and vulnerability. Wisdom acts as the guiding light, helping us navigate these forces intelligently instead of impulsively. Understanding how these energies interact reveals the rich internal landscape we constantly negotiate, where tension and harmony coexist, shaping who we are at every moment. Achieving harmony among these energies is akin to tuning an instrument. Too much tension in one string can distort the entire sound. When our internal energies are balanced, we're better equipped to handle life's ups and downs with resilience and clarity. For instance, too much order might make us rigid, afraid of change or overly cautious, while excessive chaos can lead to scattered focus and feelings of being overwhelmed. The key is to cultivate enough strength to remain grounded, enough love to stay connected, enough wisdom to choose when to act, and enough openness to embrace spontaneity and the unknown. Building this balance often involves conscious reflection and honest awareness of how each force is expressed within us. Take time to notice moments when stability feels threatened. Are we resisting change excessively or leaning too heavily on routines? Observe when emotions run wild, bringing chaos into our lives. Does it serve a purpose or hinder growth? Recognizing these patterns allows us to adjust our response. Developing resilience isn't about suppressing any force, but learning to let each play its part in a larger symphony. When these energies work together in harmony, we develop an authentic self rooted in integrity and adaptability, capable of navigating life's shifting tides without losing ourselves. Start by creating awareness of where each energy is active within you. You might journal about moments when you feel the need for control, or times when you surrender to spontaneity. Practice observing your reactions without judgment, which helps you identify imbalances more clearly. Incorporating small rituals, like setting aside quiet time for reflection to foster wisdom, engaging in spontaneous activities to honor chaos, or establishing routines to reinforce order, can gradually help you tune into these aspects. Emphasize self-compassion during this process. It's natural for some energies to feel stronger than others at different times. Another effective practice is to deliberately seek moments of balance. For example, when facing a stressful situation, lean into your strength, but also allow space for love, reaching out to someone, or practicing kindness toward yourself. When you notice over-control, intentionally invite a touch of chaos or creativity. Conversely, if life feels too chaotic, grounding yourself with a routine or mindfulness can reinforce order and stability. Remember, The goal isn't perfection, but rather flexibility. All these energies working together, adapting to the demands of each moment. With patience and consistency, you cultivate a resilient inner landscape that reflects authenticity and grace. One simple yet powerful exercise is to visualize each energy as a different part of a wheel. Rotate awareness among these parts daily, giving attention to what each needs, sometimes nourishing love and wisdom, other times allowing for strength and a bit of chaos. Over time, this practice helps you become more attuned to your internal dance and master the art of balancing these fundamental energies in daily life. Small shifts toward harmony can create profound changes in how you experience yourself and the world around you. How to read this book. Not to become someone else, but to remember who you've always been. Imagine holding a treasure map, not a set of strict instructions. This book is designed to guide you on a personal voyage, one that encourages you to recall and reconnect with the parts of yourself that may have been buried or overlooked over the years. It's easy to mistake this process for trying to become someone new, but in reality, it's about peeling back layers to reveal who you've always been beneath the surface. Think of it as rediscovering an old friend, familiar yet hidden behind years of life's complexities. Each chapter is crafted to gently evoke memories of your authentic self, not to impose ideas or identities upon you. This approach emphasizes respect for your unique history and experiences, allowing your true nature to emerge naturally, like a flower unfolding after a long sleep. Many people grow up with preconceived notions about who they should be, roles molded by societal expectations, family roles, or the immediate demands of life. This can create a sense of disconnect from one's core identity, leading to feelings of confusion or dissatisfaction. Viewing this journey as one of remembrance shifts the focus from fixing what feels broken to recognizing what has always been there. It invites you to trust in your inner wisdom and to see your past experiences as vital clues in uncovering your true self. Instead of trying to adopt a new persona or fit into a prescribed mold, this process is about honoring the layers of your personality and understanding how they've shaped you. Essentially, it transforms the act of reading into a gentle act of self-recognition, acknowledging that within you already resides a complete, authentic person waiting to be remembered. When you approach this book with curiosity and openness, it becomes an invitation to explore without judgment. This means being kind to yourself during moments of discovery or uncertainty, understanding that every memory or insight is part of your unique story. It's helpful to see this journey as a nurturing process, like tending to a garden where each plant and flower symbolizes facets of your inner world. With patience and gentle attention, the layers of conditioning and expectation can gradually fall away, revealing the underlying truth of who you are. This framing encourages trust that your innate essence is already present, waiting patiently for acknowledgement and care. This perspective transforms reading from a task into a personal adventure, one shaped entirely by your willingness to reconnect with what you already carry inside. As you begin to explore your inner landscape, it's crucial to cultivate an attitude of openness, both in your mind and heart. Often, we hold subconscious ideas about who we are or should be, which can create barriers to genuine self-awareness. Letting go of these rigid beliefs allows space for new insights to surface and for your true archetypal essence to emerge naturally. Archetypes are universal patterns that resonate deep within all of us, like archetypal seeds waiting to sprout when conditions are right. These might include qualities like strength, wisdom, nurturing, or creativity. Recognizing that these are not fixed traits, but rather fluid aspects of your being, helps you see your potential as limitless. By approaching this process with curiosity and compassion, you're more likely to notice the subtle signs of these archetypal energy in everyday moments, a kind glance, a surge of inspiration, or a quiet feeling of knowing. Keeping an open mind also means being willing to question assumptions about yourself and to embrace the parts you may have previously judged or overlooked. Sometimes, what we dismiss as trivial or undesirable is actually a vital piece of our authentic self. For example, feelings of vulnerability may be mistaken for weakness, but are truly gateways to greater compassion and strength. By adopting a curious stance, you begin to see patterns and themes emerge from your stories, behaviors, and reactions, clues pointing toward your underlying archetypal essence. This exploration is not about labeling yourself or fitting into a category, but about identifying what genuinely resonates at a deep level. Cultivating an open heart, filling yourself with acceptance and patience, creates the fertile ground for these archetypal qualities to unfold, enriching your sense of self beyond superficial labels. Practicing mindfulness and reflection can enhance this process. Taking a few moments each day to notice what stirs your emotions, what dreams or ideas attract your attention, can reveal subtle indications of your true nature. For instance, a sudden craving to help others may point toward a nurturing archetype, while a desire to create or build could signal a creative or builder archetype. These signals, when acknowledged with kindness and without judgment, become valuable markers guiding you toward your authentic self. Remember that discovering your archetypal essence is not a race but a gentle unfolding, a dance between openness and patience, allowing your inner truth to quietly emerge while you focus on the beauty of the exploration itself. This approach transforms self-discovery into a loving act of reconnecting with the core of who you have always been. Chapter 1. The Myth Inside You. Jungian Roots of Archetypes. Imagine walking through a dense, ancient forest where each tree whispers stories from long ago. This scene captures the essence of Jung's idea that beneath our conscious awareness lies a vast, shared mental landscape called the collective unconscious. Jung believed that every human inherits a toolkit of images, symbols, and themes, archetypes, that have been passed down through countless generations. These archetypes are not learned, but are part of our psychological DNA, shaping how we see the world and ourselves without us even realizing it. They emerge repeatedly in myths, dreams, and folklore across cultures, acting as universal templates that give meaning to our experiences. Jung's recognition of the collective unconscious was revolutionary. He proposed that beneath personal memories and individual experiences lies a layer of collective knowledge, much like how biological evolution builds common traits into species. Archetypes such as the hero, the mother, the shadow, and the wise old man are recurring symbols that surface in stories from ancient Greece to modern cinema. For example, think of the archetype of the hero who embarks on a quest, faces challenges, and grows stronger. It appears in stories from King Arthur to Harry Potter. Jung observed that these symbols resonate deeply because they connect with something fundamental inside us, rooted in a shared human history. To better understand these origins, consider the story of a child watching a fairy tale. The child may not fully understand the symbolism, but feels a familiar pull toward the heroic figure or the nurturing mother figure. These archetypes serve as mental shortcuts to navigate life's challenges, providing guidance and reassurance even before we can articulate it. Jung believed that these patterns are embedded in our collective unconscious, influencing our perceptions, reactions, and dreams long before we become consciously aware of them. This idea helps explain why similar symbols appear in diverse cultures that never had contact. These symbols have a shared psychic source that transcends time and place. Understanding the roots of archetypes also involves recognizing their roots in myth and historical storytelling. Many ancient civilizations built their religio-mythical systems around these core images, embedding them into rituals and art. For example, the archetype of the Great Mother embodies nurturing and fertility, symbolized by goddesses like Isis or Gaia, and reflects humanity's acknowledgement of life-giving forces. The hero's archetype often appears in epic tales where the protagonist's journey symbolizes inner transformation. The universality of these symbols reveals how deeply intertwined they are with our collective psychology, acting as an invisible thread that links humanity across continents and centuries. Even if you haven't consciously studied Jungian theory, these archetypal patterns shape your daily life in subtle but profound ways. When someone faces a challenge, their mind often automatically calls upon familiar symbols and themes associated with those archetypes to help interpret the situation. For example, encountering a difficult problem might trigger the warrior archetype, prompting a person to act bravely and decisively. Alternatively, feelings of nurturing or protection might be linked to the mother archetype, guiding behaviors that prioritize care and safety. These patterns operate beneath the surface, guiding reactions, emotions, and perceptions without us realizing their influence. Our subconscious mind continuously references these universal templates from the collective unconscious. That's why certain stories, images, and symbols evoke strong emotional responses across cultures, because they tap into their core archetypal roots. For instance, dreams often reflect archetypal figures or scenarios, serving as a window into the deep layers of the psyche. If someone dreams of being lost in a forest, it might symbolize navigating the unknown aspects of their subconscious. Dreaming of a wise old man could represent seeking guidance or inner wisdom. Recognizing these patterns can help you understand your reactions better and create a sense of connection with others who unconsciously share these experiences. Patterns from the past, embedded in our collective unconscious, influence not just individual behavior, but also societal norms and cultural narratives. Movies, stories, and religion frequently draw on archetypal themes because they resonate deeply with our shared psyche. For example, the archetype of the shadow embodies our hidden fears and suppressed aspects. And when it manifests consciously or unconsciously, it can influence decisions, relationships, and even crises. Becoming aware of these influences offers a chance to better understand your motivations and emotional triggers. Reflecting on the archetypes active in your life can reveal recurring themes, such as feeling like a victim or hero, and help you identify areas for growth and healing. One practical step is to pay attention to recurring symbols or themes in your dreams or reactions. Notice if you feel drawn to certain stories or characters unconsciously, as they might embody an archetype guiding your subconscious. Recognizing these patterns not only enhances self-awareness, but also helps you make conscious choices instead of being driven by unseen forces. Jung's theory suggests that by understanding the origins of these archetypes, you can start working with them, transforming hidden fears or unhelpful patterns into sources of strength. Remember, these universal images are a part of you. By understanding their roots, you unlock keys to inner growth and a richer understanding of the human experience. Archetypes in myths, movies, and everyday life. Stories have a unique way of capturing universal themes that resonate deep within us. When we listen to myths or watch movies, we're often witnessing archetypes, patterns that appear across cultures and time periods. These archetypes manifest in characters like the hero, the villain, the wise elder, or the innocent child. They represent fundamental aspects of human experience and reflect parts of ourselves we might not be fully aware of. For example, consider the classic tale of Harry Potter. He embodies the hero archetype, facing challenges and transforming through courage and perseverance. Recognizing these stories in our daily lives helps us understand that what we see on screen or in ancient myths is not distant or disconnected, but rather a mirror of our own inner realities. As we become more aware of these patterns, they become tools for understanding our fears, desires, and motivations better, guiding us toward greater self-awareness. Familiar stories often serve as a language we all share, transcending culture and language barriers. When we identify with a particular hero's journey or a villain's struggles, we see reflections of our own conflicts and aspirations. It's like looking into a mirror where the image is shaped by archetypes that have persisted through centuries. For instance, the archetype of the shadow, our hidden fears or unacknowledged parts, appears in stories where characters confront their darkness. Recognizing this archetype in films or myths allows us to identify similar parts within ourselves that we might push away or deny. By acknowledging these underlying patterns, we open a door to greater understanding of the complex layers that make us human. The stories we consume, whether ancient myths or modern movies, provide cues about our struggles, growth, and the parts of ourselves that seek recognition. Noticing these archetypal elements in cultural narratives requires a little awareness and curiosity. It's about observing how characters behave and what struggles they face, then asking ourselves what parts of us are stirred by these stories. Do we feel inspired by the hero's resilience? Or do we recognize the villain's fear and vulnerability? When we pay close attention to these archetypes, they can serve as guides to our own internal journeys. For example, when a story highlights a character's quest for purpose, it reminds us of our own search for meaning. Recognizing these archetypes isn't about labeling, but about seeing the interconnected nature of stories and our inner lives. Over time, this awareness can foster a more compassionate understanding of ourselves and others, revealing that the struggles and triumphs we witness outside are often reflections of our own ongoing evolution. Once we start noticing archetypes in stories, they can become powerful tools for personal growth. Think of stories as maps that guide us through inner terrains we might not yet understand fully. When we relate to a story, it helps us access parts of ourselves that are often hidden, like our fears, ambitions, or unresolved conflicts. For instance, if a movie's protagonist embodies the archetype of the seeker, it might inspire us to examine our own journeys toward truth and fulfillment. Using stories in this way turns entertainment into a mirror, revealing insights into our emotional landscape. A useful approach is to reflect on which characters or journeys resonate most deeply, then ask why. What qualities, fears, or hopes are stirred in us? This process encourages honest self-appraisal and fosters a mindful understanding of our motivations. Practicing this reflection can be simple but profound. You might choose a story, a film, myth, or personal anecdote that evokes strong emotions or reactions. Then, identify which archetype the main character or story aligns with. Next, consider how that archetype manifests within your own life. Are you embodying the hero's bravery in your relationships? Or perhaps the caregiver's nurturing instincts in your work? Recognizing these patterns can reveal where growth might be needed or where strengths are already present. Regularly engaging in this practice turns passive watching into active self-exploration. It also makes it easier to spot recurring themes in your life, giving you the opportunity to consciously choose how you respond. Over time, noticing these stories and their archetypes can transform your understanding of yourself and your relationship to the world around you. Another effective way to use stories for reflection is through journaling or discussion. Write about a story that touched you deeply and explore which archetypes are involved and what they reveal about your personal journey. Sharing these reflections with others can deepen your insights, as stories often resonate on shared levels. This process helps you become more aware of the unconscious patterns guiding your decisions and reactions. It also creates space to consider alternative responses or to nurture qualities you admire in characters, like courage, compassion, or resilience. Using stories as a tool for self-awareness is not about finding the right answer, but about embracing the complexity within and nurturing a genuine curiosity about your inner world. This ongoing reflection can serve as a compass, guiding you through life's challenges with more clarity and compassion. Remember, stories are living mirrors, and engaging with them consciously can spark meaningful change. By noticing the archetypes in myths, movies, and everyday narratives, we open the door to understanding ourselves more deeply. This awareness fuels growth, compassion, and authenticity, helping us navigate life's twists and turns with more insight. In practice, make it a habit to view stories through an inquisitive lens, asking yourself what they reveal about human nature and your own personal truths. Over time, this simple practice can become a powerful way to connect more honestly with who you are and who you are becoming, turning entertainment into a mirror for your soul's unfolding journey. How they shape your behavior, attraction, purpose. Imagine walking into a room and immediately feeling drawn to a particular person or activity without fully understanding why. That's often the influence of archetypes at work, a set of universal symbols or patterns that shape how we view ourselves and others. These archetypes act like internal guides, steering our reactions, preferences, and the way we relate to the world around us. They deeply influence our friendships, romantic connections, careers, and even the dreams we chase. When we understand these patterns, we gain insight into why we make certain choices, what attracts us, and how we can more consciously direct our lives toward purpose and fulfillment. Throughout history, stories and myths have been replete with archetypes: heroes, mentors, skeptics, lovers, each representing facets of human experience. These stories mirror how we respond to different situations and companions in our lives. For example, a person who resonates strongly with the hero archetype may seek challenges and thrive on overcoming obstacles, influencing their career as well as their approach to relationships. Conversely, someone influenced heavily by the caregiver archetype might prioritize nurturing others, choosing careers or lifestyles centered on service. Recognizing these influences helps us see how our passions often stem from these innate templates, guiding us toward pursuits that feel inherently meaningful. Our relationships are particularly shaped by these archetypes, often in unconscious ways. We tend to be attracted to partners who embody certain archetypal qualities because they resonate with parts of ourselves that seek expression or healing. For instance, a person influenced by the rebel archetype may attract others who challenge norms, inspiring change or chaos. Similarly, an individual with a deep connection to the sage archetype might seek wisdom and understanding in their interactions, choosing friends and lovers who stimulate intellectual growth. By observing these patterns, we start to see how our passions and life choices are less random and more aligned with these core archetypal themes, offering both clarity and a path for conscious development. Pinpointing your dominant archetypes can feel like gaining a map to understand your own inner landscape. As you observe your behaviors, reactions, and attractions, certain patterns will stand out. For example, if you find yourself consistently drawn to helping others, seeking roles where nurturing is central, you might identify with the caregiver archetype. If you often crave adventure or seek challenges that push your boundaries, the explorer or warrior archetype may be more prominent. Reflecting on childhood experiences, recurring themes in your dreams, or the stories that inspire you can also reveal these core patterns. Once you acknowledge your dominant archetypes, you begin to see why certain pursuits feel natural and fulfilling, and why others may seem misaligned or draining. Aligning with your true archetypal strengths involves listening to your inner voice and observing what activities, values, and relationships awaken genuine enthusiasm. It also means recognizing shadow tendencies, traits that might be exaggerated or hidden, so you can work with them rather than be controlled by them. For example, a person with a strong ruler archetype may struggle with control issues, but understanding this about themselves allows for more conscious leadership rather than authoritarianism. Through awareness, you can craft a lifestyle and purpose that honor these core patterns, leading to a more authentic existence where your passions are rooted in your innate tendencies rather than external pressures or expectations. Practicing self-inquiry helps in this process. Journaling about moments when you feel most alive, analyzing which stories or roles resonate with you the most, and asking yourself what qualities you admire in others. When you recognize your archetypes clearly, it becomes easier to make choices that reflect your true nature. This alignment fosters a sense of purpose that feels natural rather than imposed, making your journey more satisfying and sustainable. Ultimately, discovering and embracing your dominant archetypes is a step toward living a life that genuinely reflects who you are, transforming your passions into guiding lights rather than mere pursuits. A practical tip for this process is to observe your reactions in everyday situations. What excites or frustrates you? What themes recur in your decisions? And which relationships nourish or drain you? Keep a journal of these insights, then look for common themes or patterns. Over time, you'll recognize the archetypal scripts you operate from and can start consciously shifting toward roles and pursuits aligned with your authentic purpose, rather than being driven solely by what's expected or fashionable. This awareness is a powerful foundation for creating a life that truly mirrors your inner self. Chapter 2: The Balanced Self. Integration versus imbalance. Imagine a person standing at a crossroads, torn between their assertive side and their compassionate nature. Each of these qualities represents different archetypal energies. Some might push for action, others for reflection and nurturing. When these energies are in harmony, the individual appears balanced, adaptable, and resilient. But when one dominates excessively, it creates an imbalance that can lead to internal conflict and external difficulties. Recognizing and cultivating all aspects of ourselves is like tuning a complex instrument. Each string or energy needs to be calibrated so that it complements the others instead of clashing. This process involves awareness, identifying which parts of you are thriving and which are neglected or overworked, so that you can foster a sense of internal alignment that radiates outward. Throughout life, certain archetypal energies naturally come to the forefront based on circumstances, personal history, and even moods. For example, a person might lean heavily on their warrior energy, driven, competitive, and focused, during a stressful period but neglect their nurturing side, leading to burnout or feelings of emptiness. Conversely, overemphasizing the caregiver archetype in an effort to please others might lead to personal neglect and resentment. True integration doesn't mean suppressing any part. Instead, it involves allowing each to take its turn while remaining in conscious balance. That way, your actions and choices reflect a true sense of wholeness rather than a fragmented personality pulled in conflicting directions. In practical terms, this means paying attention to your internal signals, your feelings, instincts, and thoughts, and noticing when a particular energy feels overused or underused. Developing this self-awareness is a key step. It's helpful to imagine each archetype as a player in an orchestra, each with its own instrument. When all instruments listen to each other and play in harmony, the music is rich and full. If one instrument overwhelms the others, the melody becomes distorted. Achieving harmony involves giving space and attention to all parts of yourself, acknowledging their value, and integrating their energies consciously. This creates a resilient core that can adapt to whatever life presents, instead of being controlled by a single dominant trait. Neglecting certain aspects of yourself can lead to a fragmented identity, making life feel chaotic or inconsistent. When you ignore your nurturing side, for instance, you may feel emotionally disconnected from others or struggle to form meaningful relationships. Similarly, overemphasizing qualities like control or perfectionism can cause stress, anxiety, and a sense of never being enough. Sometimes, people fall into patterns where they become trapped in one archetype, such as always being the fixer, the protector, or the achiever, without allowing space for vulnerability or rest. This imbalance doesn't just affect inner peace. It can spill into actions that are reactive, overly aggressive, or overly passive, affecting your interactions and decisions. Recognizing these pitfalls is crucial. It's common to be unaware of the extent to which an overdeveloped or neglected trait influences behavior. For example, someone with a dominating warrior energy might push relentlessly toward goals, neglecting their need for downtime and leading to burnout. On the other hand, a person who suppresses their assertiveness might find themselves resentful or passive-aggressive. The danger here is in ignoring these signals until they manifest as crises or breakdowns. Being vigilant about these patterns allows you to course-correct before they create bigger imbalance. Developing habits of reflection, such as journaling or meditation, can help you catch these tendencies early. The goal is to foster flexibility, so no single archetype takes over the entire personality. Practicing self-awareness also involves questioning where your energies might be skewed. Do you tend to avoid conflict at all costs, suppressing your assertiveness? Or do you find yourself resorting to anger as a default response when things don't go your way? Feeling out these patterns helps you see where change is needed. Remember, no archetype is inherently bad or good. These are simply different facets of your personality that need balanced attention. When one aspect is overemphasized, it often compensates for another that feels weak or unacknowledged. The key is to treat each part with compassion, allowing yourself to feel and express all aspects authentically. That way, your overall sense of wholeness grows stronger and your reactions become more measured and conscious. One way to keep this balance in check is to adopt a practice of regular self-assessment. This could be as simple as pausing each week to reflect on what energies you leaned on and which ones you might have neglected. It's helpful to ask yourself questions like, did I honor my need for rest today? Or was I assertive enough in standing up for myself? Keeping track over time reveals patterns and allows you to consciously reintroduce underused qualities. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate extremes, but to foster a steady, adaptable center that can hold all your archetypal energies with grace. This ongoing practice of internal calibration can lead to a more stable, authentic sense of self rather than a personality pulled in conflicting directions. A simple yet effective tip: cultivate curiosity about your reactions. When you notice yourself acting out of character, whether being overly aggressive or overly accommodating, pause and ask, what part of me is driving this behavior? Identifying your archetypal drivers can help you intentionally choose responses aligned with your genuine self, rather than reactive patterns. Over time, this mindful approach nurtures a more integrated personality, allowing all parts to work together like a team rather than against each other. This harmony not only benefits your internal landscape, but also enhances your relationships and life's overall ease, making it easier to face challenges with resilience rather than fracture. The dangers of living in only one mode. Living strictly within one mode of being, whether it's always logical, emotionally driven, or strongly action-oriented, can create a fragile and unsustainable way of life. When we neglect other parts of ourselves, we risk falling into patterns of dysfunction that slowly chip away at our well-being. For example, prioritizing work or achievement above all else often leads to burnout, leaving us physically and mentally exhausted, with little energy left for meaningful relationships or personal growth. This constant state of overdrive can cause us to feel disconnected from our own feelings, leading to a sense of alienation from ourselves and others. As we shut down parts of ourselves, these neglected aspects tend to grow in silence, manifesting as anxiety, frustration, or feelings of emptiness that can become overwhelming over time. Furthermore, imbalance often manifests in relationships. If someone always responds with logic while ignoring emotional cues, or acts impulsively without considering consequences, it creates barriers that hinder genuine connection. Over time, others may perceive us as unpredictable or distant, which fosters loneliness and misunderstanding. The mind and body do not thrive when confined to a narrow identity. Instead, they need variety and integration to function optimally. A life focused solely on one mode also hampers our ability to adapt to challenges because we're wired only to operate within a narrow set of skills or responses. This rigidity makes us vulnerable to stress and diminishes our resilience, which can sometimes lead to emotional breakdowns or physical health issues. Many stories and myths illustrate this danger vividly. Consider the myth of Narcissus, who became so enamored with his reflection that he failed to see the world around him. His obsession with one aspect of his identity led to his downfall. Similarly, people who become fixated on winning, perfection, or avoiding vulnerability often miss out on the richness that comes from embracing the full spectrum of their emotions and traits. Recognizing when we live overly in one mode requires honest reflection. Signs might include persistent feelings of fatigue, feeling misunderstood, or noticing that we feel increasingly disconnected from our core values. Understanding the signs is the first step to creating a more balanced existence that remains healthy and fulfilling in the long run. Breaking free from the trap of living in only one mode means actively cultivating awareness of all aspects of ourselves, our thoughts, feelings, impulses, and sensitivities. This begins with acknowledgement. Rather than dismissing certain traits or tendencies because they seem inconvenient or uncomfortable, we learn to see them as integral components of our whole being. For instance, if you've always considered yourself rational and logical, try to notice moments when intuition or emotional insight might offer valuable guidance. Embracing these parts doesn't mean acting impulsively, but rather recognizing their presence and learning how to integrate them in a balanced way. A practical approach to this is to develop a form of self-dialogue or reflection, regularly asking yourself questions like, how am I feeling right now? Am I suppressing any emotions? Or what might I be missing in this situation? Can open doors to understanding your inner landscape. Over time, this practice becomes a habit, helping you respond more authentically and flexibly. Cultivating curiosity about your internal states can also help you identify hidden strengths, such as compassion, patience, or creativity, that might have been overlooked when only one mode was dominant. By consciously exploring these aspects, you build a richer, more resilient version of yourself. Inclusive practices such as mindfulness, journaling, or engaging in creative activities can serve as bridges to access parts of your personality that have gone unnoticed. These activities allow emotions and thoughts to surface naturally, rather than remain buried beneath the surface. Imagine someone who's always relied on logic, but begins to practice meditation. They might start noticing feelings of vulnerability, fear, or desire, and learn to accept these as normal parts of human experience. As these parts gain recognition, they become assets rather than liabilities. An integrated sense of self not only fosters greater inner peace, but also enhances adaptability, emotional intelligence, and overall satisfaction with life. Incorporating all parts of oneself is like tending a garden. Each plant has its season and purpose. Recognizing the value of different traits helps prevent weeds of stagnation or imbalance from overtaking the landscape of your personality. Sometimes this process involves observing and gently challenging self-limiting beliefs, such as "I'm only good at this one thing," or "vulnerability is weakness." When we start to see these beliefs as constructs rather than truths, we open space for growth. The goal is to cultivate a flexible, authentic identity that can weave together logic, emotion, action, and reflection into a cohesive whole that supports our well-being and growth. A fundamental step in this journey is practicing self-compassion. Accept that living fully means encountering moments of discomfort and confusion. It's okay to be a work in progress. Shift your perspective from expecting yourself to be perfectly balanced at all times to viewing this as an ongoing process. Over time, small, consistent efforts to embrace different parts of yourself will gradually shift your internal landscape toward harmony and resilience. Remember, adding more facets to your personality isn't about becoming someone different. It's about unveiling the many layers of who you already are. The more you nurture all aspects of yourself, the more life becomes an integrated dance rather than a fragmented struggle. Each step toward wholeness builds a stronger foundation, one that sustains you through challenges and helps you enjoy the richer textures of your human experience. Shadow forms: tyrant, coward, manipulator, addict. Many of us carry internal images of who we are, shaped by early experiences and cultural messages, but some parts of ourselves remain hidden, turned away, or suppressed. These hidden parts often emerge as shadow expressions, which can manifest as behaviors or attitudes that seem out of sync with who we want to be. For instance, the tyrant within might appear as an overbearing boss or an overly controlling partner, while the coward might drain confidence, causing hesitation or avoidance when faced with challenges. Recognizing these patterns requires honest self-awareness and a willingness to observe what triggers strong emotional reactions or uncharacteristic actions. Sometimes these shadow forms show up in small ways, like snapping at someone over nothing, or in more overt ways, such as avoiding confrontation altogether or sabotaging opportunities out of fear. By paying close attention to recurrent themes, emotional reactions, and the stories we tell ourselves in difficult moments, we can start to notice when an unconscious archetype is taking the lead. Knowing how each shadow expression uniquely shows up helps create a map of our inner landscape, pointing us toward the parts of ourselves waiting to be acknowledged and integrated. Eventually, understanding arises from consciously observing how these shadow modes influence decisions and relationships. The tyrant might be driven by a need for control, often hiding feelings of insecurity or vulnerability, while the manipulator could stem from deep-seated fears of abandonment or worthlessness. The addict's pattern, often disguised as a craving for relief or distraction, can mask underlying pain or unprocessed emotions. Recognizing these expressions as fragments of unintegrated archetypes is crucial. They don't just appear randomly, they are reactions shaped by unresolved inner conflicts, unmet needs, or societal conditioning. For example, someone who often feels the need to dominate conversations may be unconsciously trying to mask feelings of insignificance or fear of being overlooked. Learning to spot these signals in ourselves takes patience and an openness to self-inquiry. Reflecting on moments when we feel overwhelmed, angry, or defeated can reveal where our hidden shadows are directing our behavior. It's a process of peeling back layers to see which part of our psyche is operating unconsciously, giving us the chance to choose differently. Understanding the origins of these shadow forms also involves exploring stories from mythology, history, and personal life. Myths are full of characters embodying these archetypes, heroes battling monstrous tyrants, tricksters manipulating situations, or heroes succumbing to their own weaknesses. When we recognize similar patterns within ourselves, we gain perspective. For example, a story of a king who rules with an iron fist might mirror our own desire for control, or a tale of a hero who succumbs to temptation might reflect inner struggles with addiction or desire. These stories help us see that these shadow expressions are part of a larger human experience, not personal flaws to be shamed of. Over time, labeling and understanding these patterns become tools for self-compassion, making it easier to confront rather than shame ourselves for these parts. Recognizing these expressions and their origins kickstarts the process of healing and integration, ultimately allowing a more authentic and balanced version of ourselves to emerge. Transforming shadow expressions begins with the simple but profound act of awareness. Once we notice the signs, like feeling overwhelmed, reacting defensively, or acting out behaviors that seem automatic, we can start to question their roots. Identifying the trigger moments can reveal what unmet need or unresolved pain is fueling the shadow. For example, feeling the urge to dominate during a meeting could be driven by a fear of vulnerability or inadequacy. Recognizing this pattern isn't about self-criticism, but about understanding the underlying causes. From there, the process involves consciously choosing how to respond instead of reacting automatically. It might mean taking a deep breath, pausing before speaking, or stepping back from a situation to gain clarity. This inner shift requires patience and consistent effort, as old habits tend to be ingrained. The goal isn't repression but transformation, integrating these shadow parts in a way that they no longer control or distort our actions. One effective method is to dialogue with these shadow parts, the inner voice or feeling that pushes us toward destructive behaviors. For instance, imagine sitting quietly and asking the tyrant within what it truly fears. Often, these voices carry messages of vulnerability, shame, or unmet needs. Listening with curiosity and compassion can reveal their true motives, making it easier to address their core issues. Sometimes, channeling this energy into positive outlets can be transformative. For example, an addictive pattern driven by boredom or loneliness might be redirected into meaningful activity, creative expression, or social connection. The key lies in shifting from avoidance or suppression to understanding and integration. Mindfulness practices, journaling, or guided visualizations can help surface these hidden parts and facilitate dialogue. Over time, with patience and compassion, These destructive patterns can be replaced with healthier responses that honor the individual's deeper needs. Finally, actively working to cultivate qualities that counteract the shadow's negative influence can lead to profound change. If the shadow is the coward, developing courage through small, consistent steps can reinforce a new pattern. If the manipulator is present, practicing honesty and transparency in daily interactions weakens its hold. For the addict, building emotional resilience and finding alternative sources of comfort help diminish compulsive behaviors. These practices create a ripple effect, gradually strengthening our capacity for authenticity and self-control. The transformation process is not linear, but as we become more aware of our inner landscape, we gain the power to choose consciously. This shift enables us to reclaim parts of ourselves that were once fractured or hidden, building a stronger, more integrated identity that reflects our true nature rather than our shadow-driven reactions. Self-mastery is inner harmony, not domination. Imagine a person standing on a boat in the middle of a calm lake. They are not trying to command the waves or force the boat in a certain direction, but are instead adjusting their own position and balance to stay steady. This image captures the essence of true mastery. It's not about exerting dominance over others or external circumstances, but about maintaining a sense of inner harmony amidst whatever life throws your way. When we see mastery this way, it shifts our focus inward. Instead of chasing power over external events or other people, we learn to cultivate a steady, resilient internal state that remains relatively unaffected by external chaos. This approach moves away from the commonly held idea that mastery is about control. Instead, it emphasizes understanding oneself deeply enough to stay anchored. It's about developing awareness of our thoughts, emotions, and reactions and learning how to redirect or soften them rather than suppress or dominate. When mastery is viewed as an internal process, it becomes accessible to everyone, regardless of their circumstances. It's rooted in recognizing that peace and stability come from within, not from external validation or control. Practicing this kind of mastery involves daily efforts to observe your internal landscape. Notice moments of turmoil or distraction and gently bring your attention back to your center. Think of it as tending a garden within, where the goal is not to control every weed or bloom, but to create an environment where balance naturally flourishes. Over time, this focus transforms how you respond to life's inevitable ups and downs, making reactions less automatic and more conscious. Developing this internal harmony means you no longer see yourself as a victim of circumstances, but as someone who can shape their internal experience regardless of external events. Understanding mastery this way also encourages humility. Recognizing that true power lies in self-control and not in controlling others or external outcomes fosters compassion. It invites us to see others not as obstacles or sources of validation, but as fellow travelers on the path of self-discovery. By shifting the focus to internal balance, we begin to see mastery as a state of ongoing refinement, an inward journey rather than a conquest or achievement. Ultimately, this perspective confirms that the real test of mastery is how steady we remain within when external conditions grow turbulent. The goal becomes not to eliminate challenge, but to strengthen our inner foundation so we can meet difficulties with calm and clarity. This subtle shift in understanding can profoundly change how we approach personal growth, making it a continuous process of nurturing inner serenity, rather than a chase for external control and dominance. Picture a gardener tending to a fragile seedling. Rather than forcing it to grow faster or criticizing it for being slow, she gently waters and cares for it, noticing every small sign of life and adjusting her approach accordingly. This is a good metaphor for how we can approach self-growth, through compassion and awareness. These qualities act as the nourishing elements that help us develop sustainably over time. Compassion keeps us kind and forgiving of ourselves when we stumble or fall short. Awareness ensures that we remain conscious of our patterns, triggers, and underlying beliefs that influence our behavior. Practicing compassion involves extending understanding to ourselves as imperfect beings who are constantly learning. It's about recognizing that setbacks and frustrations are natural parts of growth rather than signs of failure. When we treat ourselves with patience, we create a safe space from which genuine change can emerge. Compassion also helps us develop empathy for others, breaking down feelings of judgment or superiority. This deeper sense of kindness fuels ongoing growth because it removes the shame or guilt that often accompanies personal struggles. Awareness is the other crucial element. It's like shining a light in a dark room. Wherever our attention goes, that's where we see clearer and can make informed choices. Regularly checking in with ourselves helps identify automatic reactions or thought patterns that may hinder progress. For example, noticing when we get defensive or anxious in certain situations allows us to pause and choose a more mindful response. Mindfulness practices, such as meditation or journaling, deepen this awareness and make it easier to catch destructive habits early. Over time, awareness becomes second nature, allowing our growth to be more intentional and less reactive. Integrating compassion and awareness into daily life turns self-growth into a practice that is sustainable and respectful of our human complexity. Instead of pushing ourselves relentlessly or harshly critique our setbacks, we learn to treat each step as part of a larger journey. This approach fosters inner resilience and self-trust because we realize that growth is not about perfection, but about gentle recalibration. A simple yet powerful way to reinforce this is by setting aside moments during the day to check in with your feelings and offer yourself a kind word or gentle reminder. This keeps the process alive and meaningful, encouraging ongoing development rooted in understanding and kindness. In the end, the lasting change we seek arises from these two qualities, compassion and awareness, working together as tools that sustain us. They serve as a gentle but firm reminder that self-mastery is not about domination or suppression, but about tending to our inner world with patience and clarity. Through this balance, we cultivate an inner environment where growth can flourish naturally, without the pressure of perfection or external validation. This creates a foundation where true self-mastery can thrive, built on kindness, understanding, and conscious insight rather than control or force. Chapter 3. The King, the archetype of order, vision, and legacy. He brings structure, protects the realm, blesses others. The king archetype embodies the essence of a figure who provides a clear sense of order and stability in a chaotic world. Imagine a scene where a community faces a period of upheaval. Amidst the turmoil, the king's presence becomes a symbol of reassurance. His role isn't just about wielding power, but about offering a sense of calm and structure that allows people to function and thrive. This archetype resonates with our deep-seated instinct to seek leaders who can create safe spaces, uphold justice, and foster growth. When we see this archetype at work, it often manifests as someone who naturally steps into the role of protector, ensuring that the realm, whether a community, organization, or family, remains secure. The king's presence assures others that chaos is not permanent and that harmony can be restored through wise action and steady resolve. At its core, the king archetype acts as a blessing provider, bestowing benefits not just through authority, but through nurturance and support. This is often expressed in leadership styles that prioritize the well-being of those under their care, emphasizing fairness and responsibility. The archetype is rooted in the idea that true leadership involves serving others, guiding them toward stability while maintaining a vision of a balanced, prosperous realm. The mythologies across different cultures depict kings as guardians who not only rule, but also serve as custodians of wisdom, morality, and justice. In psychological terms, embracing this archetype can help individuals develop a sense of inner stability, recognizing their own capacity to establish order within their lives and to act as a source of blessing for others. The king, therefore, embodies strength that is tempered with kindness, authority grounded in responsibility, and a desire to uplift and protect those in his domain. This archetype is often associated with qualities like decisiveness, integrity, and a sense of duty. When functioning well, the king inspires confidence, encourages loyalty, and fosters a sense of community. These qualities create a stable foundation that others can rely on during times of uncertainty. Think of historical figures or leaders who have stood firm during crises and have managed to create lasting legacies by balancing power with benevolence. The blessing, in this context, refers to the tangible and intangible benefits that flow from the king's actions: security, prosperity, growth, and a sense of belonging. The archetype reminds us that leadership rooted in integrity and service not only protects the realm, but also transforms it into a place where others can flourish intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. In modern life, signs of this archetype can be seen in leaders who step up during challenging times and who do not shy away from difficult decisions. These are individuals who prioritize the collective good, remain calm under pressure, and work tirelessly to keep chaos at bay. In organizations, People who embody the king archetype often take on roles such as CEOs, managers, community organizers, or even mentors, those who create structures that support growth and stability. Their influence is felt through policies, ethics, and actions that foster trust and promote long-term well-being. For example, a manager who ensures employees feel secure, respected, and fairly treated exemplifies this archetype, as they create an environment where productivity and harmony flourish. Within societal roles, the king archetype also appears in elected officials, religious leaders, or even cultural figures who serve as moral anchors. Their actions and decisions reflect a sense of responsibility for the broader community, aiming to uphold values and maintain order. These leaders often act as stabilizing forces during crises, providing reassurance and clear direction. Their strength lies in their ability to balance authority with compassion, ensuring that their governance promotes growth without suppressing individual freedoms. Leaders who are driven by this archetype recognize that true power comes with accountability and a desire to serve others, placing the good of the realm above personal gain. This demonstrates how the archetype extends beyond myth and fantasy into practical, everyday leadership, reminding us that the qualities of a good king, stability, protection, blessing, are essential for thriving communities. By embodying this archetype intentionally, individuals can influence their spheres of influence positively. Whether in family dynamics, workplace leadership, or community service, applying principles of shared responsibility, fairness, and protection cultivates trust and stability. As a practical tip, whenever you face a leadership role, consider how your actions can serve as a blessing by creating order, sharing wisdom, and fostering a sense of safety for others. Remember, this archetype isn't about control, it's about stewardship, nurturing a space where growth, harmony, and well-being can flourish. Leading with integrity and an awareness of your influence transforms not just your realm, but the lives of those around you. The king energy in modern life: leadership, fatherhood, clarity. Imagine a scene where a seasoned leader stands in front of a team, not just giving orders, but guiding with a calm, steady presence that inspires confidence. This image embodies the essence of the king energy, which has long been associated with authority, stability, and wise decision-making. In today's world, this archetype manifests in various ways, especially through leadership and mentorship. A modern leader who embodies king energy invests deeply in the growth of others, not just in achieving targets, but in nurturing potential. These individuals often see their role as a steward rather than just a boss, balancing authority with humility. Their influence is rooted in a sense of responsibility that goes beyond personal gain, aiming to uplift those they serve. In contemporary settings, the king archetype has evolved to include qualities like fairness, vision, and a genuine concern for the well-being of others. Mentors, for example, serve as living models of this energy. They provide guidance rooted in experience, listen with empathy, and foster a sense of stability in uncertain times. Their role is not to control, but to elevate, helping others find their own strength and clarity. Successful leaders today often demonstrate this energy through acts of service, making tough but fair decisions and creating environments where trust can flourish. This archetype reminds us that leadership is more than titles or authority. It's about embodying a sense of grounded confidence that encourages others to step into their best selves. When you see this archetype at work in the world, it often resembles figures like community builders, compassionate managers, or wise elders. These people embody a balance of strength and tenderness, knowing when to lead assertively and when to listen deeply. For anyone stepping into such roles, the key lies in understanding how to channel this energy consciously, cultivating qualities like integrity, fairness, and clarity. Whether in the boardroom, a coaching session, or a family setting, embracing the king archetype means recognizing that true authority comes from within and is expressed through service and responsibility. Reflect on how this energy manifests in your own life. Are you leading with confidence? Are you nurturing the growth of those around you? Understanding these facets can help you embody more of this archetype in your daily interactions. Clarity is the foundation upon which the king energy stands. Without clear insight into one's goals, values, and boundaries, leadership becomes muddled and authority loses its legitimacy. A king who operates with clarity makes decisions based on a well-understood sense of purpose and communicates expectations openly. This clarity helps others understand their roles and reduces confusion, fostering trust and alignment within a group. For example, A father who is clear about his values and expectations creates a stable environment for his children to grow with confidence. Similarly, leaders who articulate their vision convincingly rally their teams with purpose and direction. In every instance, clarity sustains a sense of certainty, especially during challenging times, acting as a guiding compass that keeps everyone aligned. Fairness is equally essential. A king who rules with fairness earns respect and loyalty. Fairness involves impartiality, consistency, and the willingness to listen before making judgments. It means recognizing the needs and rights of others, balancing different perspectives, and making decisions that serve the collective good. When fairness is present, conflicts tend to resolve more smoothly because people feel seen and respected. Consider how a good mentor might resolve disagreements by seeking understanding and finding middle ground. This exemplifies fair leadership. Fairness also requires responsibility. A true king owns their choices and their impact on others. They uphold ethical standards and lead with integrity, understanding that their authority is rooted in their capacity to shoulder responsibility honestly and transparently. Developing clarity, fairness, and responsibility as core qualities involves deliberate reflection and practice. Regularly assessing whether your actions align with your values can reveal areas for growth. Practicing active listening enhances fairness, as it ensures multiple voices are heard and understood. Embracing responsibility might entail acknowledging mistakes openly and working to rectify them promptly. Ultimately, these qualities create a foundation of trust and respect, enabling the archetype to serve its highest purpose, guiding others with wisdom, fairness, and a genuine sense of stewardship. If you aim to embody the king energy more fully, start by clarifying your intentions, practicing fairness in your dealings, and taking responsibility for your actions. These steps will help you lead with both strength and integrity. Shadow kings, the tyrant, the weakling. When examining the energy of a king archetype, two common pitfalls emerge that can distort its natural authority. On one extreme, there is authoritarianism, a manifestation where the king consolidates power excessively, becoming rigid, controlling, and intolerant of any challenge to his dominance. This behavior often features a domineering attitude, a refusal to listen, and an impulse to impose strict rules without regard for others' voices or needs. Over time, such tendencies can alienate followers, foster resentment, and lead to a fragile authority that rests only on fear or coercion. On the other end lies abdication, where the king shirks his responsibilities altogether, becoming weak, passive, or indifferent. Instead of leadership, this manifests as avoidance or neglect, allowing chaos to unfold or allowing others to seize power out of neglect. Both extremes, rigidity and neglect, represent a distorted expression of the king's core energy, which should ideally serve as a guiding force rooted in balance, clarity, and the capacity to support others in a shared vision of stability and growth. Recognizing these warning signs in oneself or others involves paying attention to patterns of behavior and underlying motivations. Signs of authoritarianism might include a looming sense of superiority, a desire for complete control, or reactions driven by fear of losing status or authority. People exhibiting these tendencies often dismiss differing opinions, use power to dominate, or feel threatened by dissent. Conversely, signs of abdication can show up as avoidance of responsibility, a lack of decisiveness, or feelings of helplessness and resignation. Such individuals might hide behind excuses, blame others, or show apathy toward their role or responsibilities. Both patterns tend to stem from underlying insecurities, either the fear of losing control or the fear of facing one's own vulnerability. Spotting these signs early is crucial because they often lead to damaging cycles that undermine true leadership and personal growth. Understanding that these manifestations are symptoms rather than fundamental flaws can help us avoid labeling or judging harshly. They often originate from unresolved fears, wounds, or a lack of inner clarity. For example, a leader who becomes authoritarian might be compensating for a deep insecurity about their rightful place or fear of chaos. Meanwhile, someone slipping into abdication could be battling feelings of worthlessness or overwhelm, believing they are powerless to effect change. Recognizing these signs offers an opportunity to reflect on the root causes and begin restoring balance. A balanced king energy involves confidence rooted in self-awareness, humility, and a genuine desire to serve others rather than control or avoid. Becoming aware of these tendencies allows us to correct course before they deepen into destructive patterns, keeping leadership rooted in integrity and authenticity. Practice the throne meditation. Visualize yourself standing in a quiet, open space, perhaps a field, a mountaintop, or a peaceful garden. Feel the ground beneath your feet, solid and unwavering. This imagery helps anchor you in the present moment and establishes a sense of rootedness. As you settle into this space, focus on your breath, allowing it to become steady and relaxed. With each inhale, imagine drawing in strength and clarity. With each exhale, release tension and doubt. This practice invites you to recognize your own inner authority, those deep-seated qualities of self-trust and calm confidence that often get drowned out by external noise or internal chatter. Connecting with inner stability involves a gentle acknowledgement that, no matter what chaos might swirl around you, you possess an unshakable core. It's like tuning into a silent but steadfast voice inside, reminding you that you are enough just as you are. As you continue the meditation, bring attention to sensations of stability, perhaps a heat in your palms, a steady heartbeat, or the sensation of the air moving in and out of your lungs. These cues root your awareness inward rather than outward. The key is consistency. Making this a daily ritual helps reinforce your sense of inner command and resilience, so that throughout the day, you carry this calm authority with you, even amidst uncertainty or challenging situations. Picture yourself standing tall with your shoulders back, chest open, feeling a sense of purposeful strength. This posture mimics feelings of confidence that are rooted in your core rather than superficial bravado. Take a moment to silently affirm to yourself, "I trust my judgment. I am connected to a deep well of strength." Pair this affirmation with breath work, either slow inhales or longer, calming breaths, to deepen the feeling of rootedness. Such practices can become a foundation, helping you access your inner authority whenever needed. Over time, these meditations don't just remain mental exercises, but become embodied states, transforming how you respond to challenges and decisions in everyday life. Imagine a wise king sitting on a throne, radiating calm authority and compassionate insight. Visualizations like this aren't just fantasies. They activate neural pathways associated with leadership qualities and emotional intelligence. Picture this king as someone who listens deeply, rules justly, and carries a genuine empathy for those under their care. As you enter this visualization, see yourself in this role, wearing robes of dignity, seated with grace, and with a commanding but gentle presence. Focus on the feelings this image stirs: confidence, patience, kindness. These images serve as internal models of leadership qualities you can develop and integrate into your own personality and daily interactions. By embodying these qualities through visualization, the mind begins to wire new patterns of behavior and perception. For example, imagine yourself encountering a conflict. See yourself responding with calmness and understanding, rather than reactiveness or frustration. Visualize offering a compassionate word or a steady hand, embodying the qualities of a wise and caring ruler. This process helps bridge the gap between aspiration and actual behavior, allowing you to internalize the qualities of wisdom, fairness, and empathy. Regularly practicing such imagery not only boosts self-confidence, but also shifts how you see yourself in moments of tension or decision-making, enabling you to lead with clarity and compassion whenever needed. To deepen this practice, combine visualization with physical cues. For instance, create a mental image while softly pressing your fingertips together, symbolizing unity and strength. Or adopt a posture that mirrors royal dignity, like sitting with a straight spine and relaxed shoulders. Over time, these embodied symbols work as triggers, allowing you to access your inner king whenever you face challenges. As your inner king becomes more familiar through repeated visualization, you find it easier to act from this place of calm wisdom rather than knee-jerk reactions. This approach turns an abstract ideal into a live, felt experience, guiding you to embody leadership qualities in daily life, whether in personal relationships or professional settings. Remember, the goal isn't to become a perfect ruler overnight, but to nurture these qualities gradually. Practice often by dedicating a few minutes daily to visualize yourself in this regal state, and reflect on how these mental images influence real-world choices. Over time, the qualities of a wise and compassionate leader will become more natural, shaping your responses and interactions with others. This process fosters not just self-confidence, but also a deeper sense of purpose and interconnectedness, knowing that true strength stems from kindness and awareness as much as from power and authority. Shadow watch, when control masks insecurity. Imagine someone constantly micromanaging every detail at work, stressing over small mistakes, and never trusting others to handle their responsibilities. This behavior often hides a deeper issue, a deep-seated fear of losing control or being vulnerable. When we look closely, many of our compulsive need to manage situations or dominate outcomes isn't driven purely by confidence or clarity. Instead, it's frequently rooted in an underlying insecurity, a whispering voice telling us that if we let go, chaos or failure might unfold. Recognizing these moments is crucial because they reveal that what seems like strength, the need to control, is actually a mask for insecurity. This desire to control often shows up when we feel threatened, perhaps by uncertainty, change, or our own inadequacies. People might overwork themselves, modulate their emotions excessively, or insist on having the final say in every decision. For example, a person might insist on overseeing every project detail, even when trusted colleagues are capable of managing tasks independently. That constant need to regulate every aspect isn't necessarily a sign of competence, but a shield that keeps uncomfortable feelings like vulnerability or fear at bay. These moments are opportunities for honest self-reflection, helping us understand that this urge isn't about actual strength, but fear wearing a confident face. Many psychological frameworks support this idea. The human mind often seeks to establish a sense of safety and predictability, especially when underlying self-doubt exists. Freud once described defense mechanisms, such as projection or rationalization, that help individuals manage distressing feelings. When we notice ourselves clinging to control, we're witnessing a defense mechanism masking unresolved fears. Being aware of these cues can be transformative. Instead of acting out in ways that perpetuate insecurity, we begin to see the pattern. Recognizing this pattern is about compassion, understanding that beneath the need for control lies an inner ache for acceptance and safety. Surrendering control isn't about becoming passive or indifferent. It's about intentionally choosing to release tension over things we cannot fully manage. The first step often involves recognizing that our perceived need for control is driven by a desire to prevent failure or disappointment. Begin by practicing small acts of letting go, perhaps delegating tasks without micromanaging, or resisting the urge to check every detail obsessively. Over time, these small acts serve as proof that trust and confidence can grow even in spaces where we once felt vulnerable. Integrating mindfulness practices helps cultivate awareness of when control tendencies arise, giving us a pause to choose differently instead of reacting impulsively. Building inner confidence requires shifting our perspective from seeking external validation or certainty to trusting ourselves from within. Start by listing successes, moments when you handled difficulties or made decisions without needing excessive reassurance. These reflections reinforce the understanding that you can navigate uncertainty and handle setbacks. Incorporating self-compassion is also crucial. When you notice yourself slipping into controlling habits, treat yourself kindly rather than criticizing. This compassionate stance fosters a safe internal environment where vulnerability is acknowledged rather than avoided, gradually replacing fear with trust. A practical approach involves setting intentional limits on how much control you exert. For instance, decide that in each situation, you will delegate responsibility to someone else and resist the urge to intervene unless there's an obvious necessity. Seek feedback from trusted friends or colleagues about your tendencies. Sometimes an external perspective reveals blind spots that limit your growth. Developing patience with yourself is key. Each time you choose to release some control, you're practicing a form of self-trust that accumulates over time, gradually replacing fear with genuine confidence. Remember, confidence isn't about never feeling insecure. It's about trusting your ability to handle uncertainty when it arises. Journal. Where am I withholding blessing? Often, we go through daily life so wrapped up in our routines and personal struggles that we forget to notice when we withhold kindness or encouragement from others. Reflecting on where this withholding occurs can reveal underlying fears or beliefs that hold you back from fully supporting those around you. Think about moments when someone seeks your help or validation. Are you quick to dismiss their needs? Or do you genuinely offer your presence and understanding? Sometimes, withholding simply stems from feeling overwhelmed or unsure of what to say, but it can also be rooted in deeper fears like rejection or vulnerability. Observing your reactions without judgment helps identify patterns where you may unconsciously hold back, creating distance instead of connection. Recognizing these moments gives you an opportunity to gently shift from withholding to more open, supportive behavior. Ask yourself honest questions. Are there specific people or situations where I tend to hold back? If so, what emotions or thoughts are fueling that tendency? Becoming aware is the first step toward transforming your interactions and cultivating a more generous attitude toward offering blessings in the form of support, validation, or guidance. We often suppress our natural desire to uplift others because of fears that we might be judged, rejected, or misunderstood. A common barrier is the belief that our help isn't enough or that it won't make a difference, leading to a kind of emotional retreat. Yet, even small acts of kindness, like listening deeply, acknowledging someone's feelings, or offering a word of encouragement, can have profound effects. When you pause to reflect on your tendencies, you may discover hidden patterns of withholding that stem from self-protection. For example, you might notice avoiding eye contact when someone shares a problem, or dismissing your own feelings about their struggles. These moments are often subtle but revealing. By shining a light on them, you can begin to practice openness. Consider keeping a journal where you note times you hold back and explore what emotions or beliefs are attached. Over time, you'll uncover common themes, like fear of being vulnerable or feeling unworthy of giving support, that you can work to consciously release or reframe. Journaling becomes a powerful tool when it comes to uncovering what's behind the tendency to withhold blessings. Start by dedicating a few minutes each day to writing without censorship or judgment. Focus on recent interactions where you might have held back support or validation. Ask yourself questions like, why did I choose not to share more? Was I afraid of being judged? Did I feel unworthy of offering help? As you write, pay attention to recurring themes or emotions, such as fear, shame, or guilt, that appear alongside these moments. These insights can act as clues pointing toward underlying beliefs that keep you from fully giving or receiving blessings. Once you identify these patterns, the next step is to consciously work on releasing them. Write entries where you visualize offering support freely, imagining the positive impact it could have. Affirmations can also be embedded within your journaling, such as I am deserving of giving and receiving kindness, to help rewire your subconscious thought patterns. Over time, this process encourages you to see your worthiness in offering blessings and helps dismantle the fears that keep you from doing so authentically. Many find that simply recognizing these patterns through journaling creates a shift in how they approach their relationships. It's not about forcing yourself to act differently overnight, but rather gently becoming aware of automatic reactions or beliefs. For example, noticing that you often withdraw when someone needs support, maybe because you fear being vulnerable, opens the door to gentle correction. Journaling prompts like, what was I feeling in that moment? Or, what belief was I holding on to that kept me from offering my help? Help to bring subconscious fears into conscious awareness. Once these fears surface, you can challenge them with new, kinder perspectives. Writing affirmations such as I am capable of giving support without fear, or it's okay to be vulnerable, reinforces your ability to shift toward openness. This ongoing process gradually dissolves the barriers that prevent you from giving blessings freely, enabling more authentic and meaningful connections with others. Practicing regular journaling about withholding and fear also builds emotional resilience. As you become more familiar with your internal patterns, you develop a compassionate stance toward yourself. Recognizing that withholding often isn't about you personally, but about unresolved fears allows you to approach your growth with patience. Keep a dedicated space for reflection where you celebrate small victories, like choosing to listen intently instead of withdrawing. This positive reinforcement encourages deeper trust in your capacity to be generous. Over time, these insights and gentle efforts accumulate, transforming your interactions into more authentic expressions of support and love. Remember, the goal isn't perfection but progress. Each moment of awareness brings you closer to a more open, giving heart. A practical tip: set aside a few minutes daily to write about your interactions and feelings, focusing on areas where you tend to hold back. Use prompts that challenge your fears, such as what am I afraid will happen if I support this person? Or what old belief might be blocking my generosity? As you explore these questions honestly, you create a baseline for change. Review your journal entries periodically, noting any shifts or recurring themes, and celebrate the awareness you gain. These reflections serve as gentle reminders that growth isn't about eliminating all fears, but about recognizing them and choosing to act despite them. This ongoing, Mindful practice supports your journey toward offering blessings more freely and with genuine intention. Chapter 4: The Warrior, the Archetype of Purpose, Courage, and Discipline. The Protector, the Boundary Setter, the one who takes action. Imagine walking into a room where everyone seems to be in motion, yet one person stands still with unwavering confidence. This is the essence of a warrior. Not necessarily someone who fights with weapons, but someone who embodies courage, focus, and assertiveness in everyday life. A warrior faces challenges head-on, not because they ignore fear, but because they act despite it. Their courage is what propels them forward when others hesitate. Focus keeps them grounded, ensuring their energy is directed toward meaningful goals rather than distractions. Assertiveness allows them to speak their truth and stand their ground without aggression, creating a presence that naturally commands respect. These qualities weave together into a powerful identity that views obstacles as opportunities and setbacks as lessons, an attitude that fuels resilience and unstoppable drive. The true warrior understands that bravery isn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to move through it. This kind of strength arises from deep self-awareness and the recognition of what truly matters. Think of historical figures, athletes, or everyday heroes who push through adversity. Each exemplifies these traits. For instance, consider a firefighter running into a burning building. Their focus on saving lives takes precedence over fear of danger. Similarly, in personal life, a person might confront difficult conversations or set boundaries with unwavering clarity. This is the language of the warrior. Developing this embodiment involves cultivating a mindset rooted in confidence, discipline, and the courage to face discomfort. It's about becoming someone who acts deliberately and purposefully, regardless of external chaos or internal doubts. Boundary setting is often mistaken as a rigid wall, but in truth, it is a form of self-respect and clear communication. When you define what is acceptable and what isn't, you're creating a space where your energy remains protected and your priorities stay in focus. Boundaries serve as guides that prevent others from draining your resources or steering you off course. They can be physical, emotional, or mental, such as saying no to demands that don't align with your values or carving out time for yourself amid chaos. Setting boundaries requires honesty and assertiveness. It is about honoring your needs without guilt. Saying yes to the right things and no to distractions or toxic influences keeps your actions intentional, steering your life in the direction you choose rather than reacting passively to external forces. Intentional action ties directly into the warrior's purpose. It involves making deliberate choices based on your values and goals rather than defaulting into patterns or habits. Instead of rushing from task to task without thought, intentionality asks you to pause, reflect, and ask whether your actions move you toward your desired outcome. For example, before responding to an email, a warrior might consider whether the reply aligns with their purpose or contributes positively. This mindful approach helps avoid wasting energy on trivial concerns or conflicts that don't serve your higher aims. It also encourages you to prioritize what truly matters, whether that's nurturing relationships, pursuing passions, or maintaining physical health. When you act with clarity and purpose, your energy becomes amplified because you're not dispersed across distractions or reactive behaviors. Boundaries and intentional actions create a foundation for a more empowered life. When you consistently practice setting limits and choosing where to direct your efforts, you develop a sense of mastery over your environment. Setting boundaries tells others how to treat you, and acting intentionally ensures your actions are aligned with your core values. Over time, these practices not only protect your well-being, but also reinforce your identity as someone who is in control and deliberate. This synergy fuels the warrior within, strengthening confidence, sharpening focus, and fostering resilience. It transforms living from a series of reactions into a conscious, purposeful journey where your actions pave the way forward rather than leaving you stuck in the wake of others' demands. The warrior in daily life: focus, fitness, saying no, resilience. Living as a modern warrior means bringing a sense of focus and purpose into daily routines, whether at work, in caring for our health, or nurturing relationships. Think of each day as a battlefield where your mental clarity and intention are your strongest weapons. At work, this might mean setting boundaries, staying committed to tasks without distraction, and tackling challenges with a calm resilience rather than reactive frustration. In health, adopting the warrior mindset involves consistent effort, choosing nutritious foods, pushing through setbacks in fitness, and listening to your body's signals without neglect. Within relationships, it's about standing firm on your values, communicating honestly, and saying no to behaviors or commitments that drain your energy or compromise your integrity. These principles aren't about perfect control. They're about practicing awareness and making conscious choices in the heat of the moment. When you treat everyday situations like small battles where your focus matters, you develop a steadiness that becomes second nature over time, empowering you to navigate life's chaos with a quiet strength. Applying warrior principles to these areas also involves understanding that failure isn't final, but part of the growth process. When you slip up at work or miss a workout, a warrior instinct is to observe what caused the slip, learn from it, and adjust rather than beating yourself up. This attitude helps build mental resilience, the core of a warrior's daily life. Carrying this mindset forward requires integrating small rituals, like starting your day with clear intentions, taking deliberate pauses to regain focus, or ending your day reflecting on what you accomplished, and gradually these act as anchors. The key is consistency, making tiny, intentional choices every day that reinforce your purpose and strengthen your resolve. Over time, this approach transforms everyday moments into opportunities to practice focus, discipline, and integrity, forming a foundation that supports you through larger challenges. Resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something you cultivate through disciplined actions and thoughtful decisions. It begins with recognizing that every choice you make is either strengthening or weakening your inner strength. For example, choosing to go for a run in bad weather, even when it's inconvenient, reinforces your sense of commitment. Similarly, saying no to distractions like endless social media scrolling when you have important tasks helps you develop your focus and emotional discipline. Resilience grows from practicing these small acts consistently, creating a habit of deliberate effort that prepares you to handle bigger setbacks down the line. Everything from managing stress at work, overcoming setbacks in fitness, to maintaining patience in difficult conversations benefits from this steady buildup of internal strength. Over time, these small acts accumulate into a powerful buffer against life's inevitable stresses and failures. Discipline is about mastering the art of doing the things that matter, even when they seem uncomfortable or less rewarding in the moment. Another key aspect is embracing discomfort on purpose. Often, resilience is built when you intentionally step outside your comfort zone. For instance, engaging in challenging physical training or practicing difficult conversations may feel unpleasant initially, but these experiences toughen your mind and body over time. It's also about shaping your environment, removing temptations or distractions, and creating routines that promote stability. These deliberate actions foster a sense of control that bolsters mental toughness. Reflection plays a role too. Regularly reviewing your progress helps reinforce your commitment and highlights areas for growth. Eventually, resilience becomes a habit, an inherent part of your daily rhythm, enabling you to bounce back more quickly from setbacks with a calm, clear mind. Remember, resilience isn't about being invincible. It's about developing the capacity to recover, adapt, and continue moving forward with purpose and confidence. Practicing a simple daily challenge can be surprisingly effective. For example, each morning, set a small goal that pushes your limits. Whether it's waking up 15 minutes earlier to meditate, resisting a snack you crave, or completing an arduous task before casual distractions take over. Completing these small wins reinforces your discipline and builds trust in your ability to handle adversity. Over time, these habits forge a resilient mindset that refuses to be broken by difficulties. Resilience isn't about never falling. It's about knowing how to get back up faster, stronger, and more focused. When you consistently choose discipline over comfort, you craft a mental armor that sustains you through life's inevitable storms, turning setbacks into lessons that propel you forward rather than hold you back. Shadow warriors, the brute, the martyr. Understanding how the shadow warrior manifests in our behavior begins with recognizing the subtle signs of self-destructive tendencies. Often, this archetype displays itself through unchecked aggression, raising the voice over small disagreements, reacting with hostility, or using force to dominate situations. These reactions are not always conscious. They are often rooted in feelings of fear, helplessness, or a perceived need to protect oneself at all costs. Self-sacrifice, on the other hand, manifests as putting others' needs above your own to the point of neglecting your well-being, sometimes to gain approval or avoid conflict. It can be so ingrained that it feels almost automatic, leading to burnout, resentment, or a sense that one's value is measured solely by their sacrifices. The key is learning to spot these behaviors early, understanding what triggers them, and recognizing when they become tools for avoidance or control rather than authentic expressions of strength or compassion. Many individuals find themselves in cycles of harmful expression without realizing it, often justified by external pressures or internal beliefs. For example, a person might lash out in anger when feeling insecure or overwhelmed, mistaking visibility for strength. Others might constantly volunteer to take on burdens for friends or family, believing that their worth depends entirely on their sacrifice. These acts might provide temporary relief or a sense of purpose, but ultimately diminish their sense of self-control and happiness. To begin addressing these patterns, it helps to pay attention to moments when emotions escalate unnecessarily or when actions are driven by a need to placate others or avoid confrontation. Reflection on the true motives behind these behaviors opens the door to healthier responses and a deeper understanding of one's own shadow armor. Uncovering destructive expressions also involves observing our language, gestures, and reactions. Do you find yourself saying things like, "It's okay, I'll do it," even when overwhelmed? Do you react defensively when someone questions your motives? These small cues can reveal underlying tendencies toward aggression or martyrdom. Practically, journaling or speaking about these moments can illuminate recurring themes or triggers, offering clarity on patterns that may have been invisible. Once identified, it becomes easier to challenge these behaviors and experiment with new, more balanced ways of expressing strength, from assertiveness instead of hostility, or confident self-care instead of self-neglect. Recognizing these signs early helps break the cycle before destructive habits deepen, paving the way for authentic relationships and internal harmony. Stepping away from the extremes of aggressive or sacrificial behaviors involves cultivating a clear sense of inner balance. Strength, in its healthiest form, is rooted in authenticity and confidence, not domination or self-neglect. Compassion plays a crucial role here. Genuine strength is often demonstrated through kindness towards oneself and others. This can mean setting boundaries without guilt, asserting needs with clarity, and allowing oneself to rest and recharge without feeling weak. When the shadow warrior leans too heavily into martyrdom, they risk losing touch with their own needs, leading to exhaustion and bitterness. Conversely, unchecked aggression erodes relationships and creates hostility. Striking a balance requires a conscious effort to develop self-awareness, practice self-care, and approach conflicts with calmness and understanding instead of impulsiveness or avoidance. One effective way to foster this balance is by creating daily routines that honor personal needs alongside commitments to others. For example, scheduling time for reflection, exercise, or hobbies replenishes emotional reserves, making it easier to handle challenges with patience rather than frustration. Learning to communicate with honesty and respect, even when emotions are high, helps prevent destructive reactions and promotes healthier interactions. It's also beneficial to view strength as a combination of resilience and tenderness, a capacity to stand firm without needing to dominate or to serve as a doormat without regard for oneself. This kind of strength encourages openness, vulnerability, and courage, vital qualities for authentic connection and long-term well-being. Practicing self-compassion and setting boundaries can be challenging at first, especially if one has internalized the shadow warrior's extremes for years. A helpful step is to regularly check in with oneself, asking questions like, "Am I doing this because I genuinely care or because I want to avoid conflict? Or am I neglecting my well-being to meet others' expectations?" Developing this internal dialogue creates space for healthier choices. Remember, true power comes from inner stability, being strong enough to say no when needed, brave enough to ask for help, and compassionate enough to forgive oneself for past mistakes or impulsive reactions. Small, consistent shifts can lead to a more balanced expression of your innate strength, rooted in kindness and self-respect rather than fear or guilt. Practice. The sword ritual, cutting away what no longer serves. Imagine standing in a quiet, sunlit garden, holding a small, sharp pair of scissors. This tool is not just for cutting fabric or paper. In this practice, it symbolizes your ability to sever ties with thoughts, habits, or beliefs that no longer serve your highest good. Begin by taking slow, deep breaths to center yourself, feeling the air fill your lungs and calm your mind. As you breathe out, bring to mind some recurring patterns or beliefs that you notice holding you back. Perhaps a feeling of unworthiness, fear of change, or self-doubt. Visualize these thoughts as thick, heavy vines intertwined around your body, anchoring you in old patterns. Now, gently imagine yourself taking a scissors and making precise cuts through these vines, freeing yourself from their grip. Focus on the sensation of cutting away, feeling not just physically but emotionally releasing the attachment to these limiting beliefs or habits. This exercise isn't about denial, but about consciously choosing to let go of what's no longer beneficial. Repetition over time can deepen this process, helping you break free from subconscious patterns that keep you stuck or repetitive. Switching from visualization to action, this practice becomes a symbolic act of cleansing, a way to physically reinforce inner cleansing. This isn't about literal cutting, but about creating a ritual that signals your intention to shed old identities or thought patterns that block growth. The act of cutting can be as simple as slicing through a symbolic item, like a piece of paper with a limiting belief written on it, or more involved, like physically engaging with a metaphorical cut during meditation or reflection. The key is to treat the act with reverence, recognizing it as a step toward renewal. Done regularly, it can serve as a reminder that change comes through conscious effort. Over time, these symbolic actions can gradually loosen the grip of outdated beliefs, allowing new perspectives and healthier habits to take their place. Remember, it's not about eradicating yourself of your past, but about cutting away what weighs you down and blocks your progress. Shadow watch, mistaking aggression for strength. Imagine a coworker who always seems to argue loudly during meetings, asserting their opinions with an almost aggressive tone. At first glance, you might think they are simply confident or assertive. But often, beneath that surface lies a different story, one of vulnerability and fear. When people project anger or dominance, it's frequently a defense mechanism designed to hide deeper insecurities or fears about not being enough or losing control. These outward displays of strength can serve as armor, making it hard for others to see their genuine feelings or weaknesses. Recognizing this pattern requires a shift in perspective, looking beyond the surface to identify subtle signs that anger might be masking vulnerability. To truly spot when someone's aggressive exterior hides fear, pay attention to nonverbal cues. They might avoid eye contact, have tense muscles, or display nervous gestures like fidgeting or blinking more frequently. Speech patterns can also give clues. Aggressive individuals might speak loudly or interrupt others, yet their tone can sometimes reveal hesitation or uncertainty. Often, their threats or criticisms are exaggerated or inconsistent, revealing underlying insecurity rather than true confidence. Remember, many who appear dominating are actually battling inner doubts, which they attempt to suppress with assertive or even hostile behavior. This understanding helps untangle the truth from the facade, revealing the emotional undercurrent driving their actions. Identifying these signals isn't about labeling someone as weak, but about understanding human complexity. People can only maintain a facade of strength for so long. Eventually, their fear leaks through in moments of stress or when their defenses are lowered. For instance, a boss who consistently displays aggressive authority may secretly fear losing respect or power. Recognizing these signs allows you to approach such individuals with empathy, knowing their behavior often stems from insecurity rather than true malice. This awareness also encourages self-reflection, helping you examine times when your own fears might have influenced your actions. The key is cultivating curiosity rather than judgment, which opens the door to healthier interactions rooted in genuine understanding. Moving from aggression to assertiveness is a skill that transforms challenging interactions into opportunities for connection and respect. Assertive communication involves expressing your needs or boundaries clearly and calmly, without diminishing others or resorting to hostility. Think of it as a balanced approach, standing your ground without overpowering or being passive. This practice requires awareness of your own feelings and the ability to articulate them in a way that invites dialogue rather than shutdown. For example, instead of yelling or attacking, you might say, "I feel overwhelmed when I don't get a chance to share my perspective. Can I finish my point before you respond?" This kind of statement normalizes honest expression while maintaining respect for both sides. To develop assertive communication, start by knowing your boundaries and the specific messages you want to convey. Use I statements to own your feelings, which reduces defensiveness. For instance, "I need clarity about this project's deadline," is more effective than issuing a command or criticizing. Practice active listening, which shows you're engaged and open to understanding others' views, even if you disagree. When tensions rise, pause before responding. Taking a deep breath can help you choose words that are firm but respectful. Focus on the message, not the emotional reaction. This keeps the dialogue constructive. Over time, these habits reinforce your capacity to express yourself confidently and empathetically, avoiding the trap of using aggressive language that often escalates conflicts rather than resolves them. Another crucial aspect is recognizing how tone and body language influence perceived assertiveness. Maintaining eye contact, an even tone, and open gestures support your words and help convey confidence without aggression. It's also useful to practice scenarios. Role-playing with a trusted friend or colleague can prepare you for difficult conversations. Remember, assertiveness isn't about winning or dominating, but about sharing your truth while respecting the other person's right to theirs. Cultivating this balance transforms your interactions, reducing misunderstandings and creating space for mutual respect. Applied consistently, assertive communication becomes a powerful tool for establishing healthier, more authentic relationships both professionally and personally. Journal, what am I fighting for, and what am I avoiding? Many of us go through life feeling stuck in patterns we don't fully understand. Often, there's a tension between what we think we're fighting for and what we're actually avoiding. Imagine a person tirelessly working long hours, claiming it's all about providing for their family. Yet, beneath that outward justification, fear of failure or rejection might be driving their relentless busyness. Recognizing these hidden fears requires honest reflection. Asking yourself why you want certain things and what you're afraid might happen if you don't achieve them. Sometimes, our struggles are not just about the goals we set, but about avoiding discomfort, shame, or vulnerability that comes with failure or change. To uncover your true motives, it helps to create space for honest self-questioning. Journaling can be powerful here. Write about your daily struggles, then ask yourself, what am I really afraid of in this situation? It's often enlightening to consider the stories we tell ourselves about why we fight certain battles. For example, someone might think they're fighting for independence when deep down they fear dependence or losing control. Our fears can shape our behaviors just as much as our ambitions do. When you become aware of these hidden fears, it becomes easier to determine whether your actions serve your genuine desires or whether they're echoes of past wounds or fears. Recognizing your motives and fears isn't about judgment, but about clarity. It's like shining a light into dark corners of your mind that you may have avoided exploring. This awareness enables you to distinguish between what genuinely aligns with your growth and what might be an unconscious attempt to protect yourself from pain. Sometimes, the biggest breakthrough comes when you accept that certain struggles are rooted in fears you haven't fully admitted. Doing so creates space for more conscious choices, allowing you to decide whether to confront those fears or accept them as part of your process. What you uncover might surprise you. Your motives might be more complex than simple desires for success or happiness, revealing deep-seated needs for safety, acceptance, or power. Once you've identified your underlying motives and fears, the next step is to connect these insights to a clear sense of purpose rooted in your values. Clarifying your purpose means defining what truly matters to you at a fundamental level, what kind of person you want to be, and what impact you want to have. When your efforts stem from authentic values rather than subconscious fears or external pressures, your actions naturally become more aligned and meaningful. For example, if honesty is a core value, then integrity might guide decisions about work, relationships, and personal growth. This clarity helps weed out distractions or pursuits that don't truly resonate with who you are or want to become. To find this alignment, start by listing your core values. Think about moments in your life when you felt most fulfilled or at peace. The qualities present in those moments often point toward your deeper purpose. Then, consider how your current actions and struggles relate to these values. Are they supporting your sense of integrity, compassion, creativity, or freedom? If not, you can revisit your choices and make adjustments that bring your daily life into harmony with your true self. Living purposefully isn't about perfection, but about consistency, making sure that your intentions and actions speak the same language. When your endeavors align with your highest values, you experience a sense of authenticity that empowers resilience even during difficult times. This process of clarification also involves asking yourself questions like, what do I want my life to stand for? And how do I want to be remembered? It encourages a long-term perspective that can reframe struggles as necessary steps toward achieving your deeper purpose. When your actions are guided by this sense of meaningful direction, setbacks become less overwhelming because they're perceived as part of your growth story, not accidents or failures. A purpose rooted in genuine values becomes a compass, helping you stay centered amid external chaos or internal doubts. Over time, this alignment nurtures a sense of peace, knowing that you're acting in a way that truly reflects who you are and what matters most to you. Chapter 5. The Magician, the Archetype of Insight, Transformation, and Hidden Knowledge. He understands the unseen, connects the dots, initiates change. Imagine walking into a quiet room filled with ancient symbols, mysterious artifacts, and subtle energies humming in the air. This is the realm of the magician, someone who operates on the hidden layers of reality, sensing what others overlook. The magician doesn't rely solely on what is obvious. Instead, they understand that much of life's true power lies beneath the surface. Hidden, elusive, yet profoundly influential. They are the keepers of secrets, understanding that unseen forces, like intuition, symbolism, and energy, shape reality far more than what appears on the surface. This archetype embodies a deep understanding of the subtle currents that influence human behavior, fate, and change. For example, consider how myths and stories across cultures often revolve around a wizard or sorcerer who manipulates unseen elements to bring about transformation. These stories reflect our subconscious recognition that not all power resides in what's immediately visible. Magicians access knowledge that isn't easily spelled out, rituals, symbols, and patterns that encode meaning beyond words. They recognize that much like pulling back a curtain, revealing the hidden requires a special lens and patience. The master of secrets understands resilience in mystery. They know that there's wisdom in not revealing everything at once, trusting that some truths reveal themselves only through patience and intuition. This role often involves working with symbols, dreams, signs, or patterns that guide decisions and actions. They understand and respect the delicate balance between revealing and concealing, knowing that control over secrets offers a unique power. The magician also acts as a gatekeeper of personal and collective transformation, guiding others to recognize what is unseen but felt, moving beyond mere rational understanding into intuitive knowing. By truly mastering the unseen, they cultivate an inner landscape rich with insight, which then guides their external actions. This mastery isn't about mystical tricks, but about developing a refined sensitivity to the currents that flow beneath everyday life. Whether through meditation, studying symbolism, or trusting gut feelings, the magician tunes into subtle signals others ignore. They understand that real change occurs not only through direct action, but also through the alchemy of unseen forces working quietly behind the scenes. Moving from the mysterious realm of secrets to the more personal practice, harnessing intuition becomes a powerful tool for initiating change. Intuition isn't just a vague feeling. It's a deep connection to inner knowledge that often bypasses logical analysis. Many successful individuals, artists, entrepreneurs, healers, engage with their intuitive senses to spot opportunities, recognize patterns, and make decisions that seem aligned with a bigger picture. Tapping into this inner compass allows one to understand what's necessary for growth, even when external circumstances are ambiguous. To cultivate intuition, it helps to create quiet spaces in daily life where you can listen to your inner voice without distraction. This could be through meditation, journaling, or simply paying close attention to sensations, thoughts, or flashes of insight during routine moments. The key is to allow subconscious impressions to surface naturally, trusting that these subtle nudges contain valuable guidance. For example, noticing a recurring dream or an inexplicable feeling while making a choice can point toward the right path that logic alone might miss. Insight, on the other hand, often emerges through reflection and pattern recognition. Over time, as you gather experiences and pay close attention, your mind begins to connect dots that previously seemed unrelated. A story from a famous scientist illustrates this well. Marie Curie remarked that her breakthrough discoveries came from persistent observation and intuition, mixed with rigorous experimentation. In our own lives, developing insight involves a combination of curiosity, patience, and willingness to question assumptions. Each new experience feeds into a larger understanding, creating a cycle where intuition guides exploration and insight deepens intuitive clarity. Using intuition and insight together opens pathways for genuine transformation. It gives you the ability to act with conviction, even when the outcome isn't fully clear yet. For instance, A leader who senses a shift in team dynamics can choose to approach issues differently based on that inner sense, leading to innovative solutions. Similarly, an artist might create from a place that can't be described but feels true, an act of channeling unseen forces into tangible expression. The key is trusting this invisible guidance, knowing that it often points to opportunities or challenges that logic alone might not recognize. Practicing this form of connection involves developing a disciplined openness, learning to listen without forcing, to observe without attaching expectations. Keep a journal of insights, watch for recurring themes or symbols, and reflect on moments where your intuition proved correct. Over time, you will find that this inner dialogue becomes clearer, and your capacity to catalyze meaningful change grows stronger. Remember, the unseen isn't always an obstacle. Instead, it often holds the secret keys to genuine transformation that can't be achieved through sheer effort alone. Tip for harnessing your intuition: dedicate a few minutes each day to quiet reflection, then write down whatever insights come up, no matter how small. Over weeks, you'll discover patterns and quiet wisdom waiting patiently for recognition. This is the subtle art of connecting with unseen forces, your personal magic at work. The magician in life: teachers, therapists, creators, strategists. The magician archetype often reveals itself in roles that involve transformation, insight, and the ability to see beyond the surface. In everyday life, this can be a teacher who sparks curiosity, a therapist who unearths hidden patterns, or a creator who turns abstract ideas into tangible realities. These individuals tend to possess a unique way of making the complex understandable, often holding an almost mystical connection to insight and intuition. They may not always be loud or obvious, but have a quiet confidence rooted in their deep understanding of the unseen forces influencing life. For example, a mentor who recognizes potential in someone and guides them through subtle shifts demonstrates this archetype in action. These figures serve as catalysts, helping others to see possibilities they never considered, and their influence can extend beyond direct interaction, shaping ideas and perceptions in subtle but powerful ways. This archetype often manifests in a variety of forms, each suited to their context. Teachers might use storytelling or analogy to dissolve confusion. Therapists often tap into their intuitive sense to guide clients through emotional knots, and creators produce innovative work that shifts consciousness or changes the way we see the world. Even strategists, in a modern sense, embody this role by understanding patterns and connecting disparate ideas to craft deeper insights. Recognizing this archetype isn't always straightforward, because it can appear as simple wisdom or quiet guidance, yet underneath lies a profound mastery of transformation. These individuals often possess traits like curiosity, patience, and a love for learning, which fuel their ability to adapt and innovate across different settings. Their power lies in making the intangible tangible, in turning vision into reality, and in helping others access their own hidden potential. Once you identify with the magician's qualities, the next step is to harness your unique perspective in a way that benefits others. Your insights become an invaluable resource in guiding those around you. Think about the ways you can share your understanding without condescension or overwhelm. Sometimes the most effective guidance is gentle and subtle, inviting others to discover their own answers. When you trust your intuition and allow it to inform your actions, you naturally become a beacon for others seeking clarity or transformation. People are often drawn to those who seem to hold a deeper understanding, and your role becomes one of a facilitator of change rather than a prescriber of solutions. For example, in a coaching scenario, you might listen deeply, pick up on unspoken doubts, and gently lead your client toward new perspectives that feel authentic to them. This process involves not only sharing knowledge, but also inspiring curiosity and fostering belief in potential. You can do this by crafting stories that resonate, asking probing questions that unlock insight, or simply demonstrating through your actions that transformation is possible. Your challenge is to remain humble and aware of the shadows that come with this archetype, such as the temptation to manipulate or to believe you hold all the answers. Instead, use your insights as a gift to illuminate paths others may not see, always encouraging independence and self-trust. Remember, your magic is rooted in your ability to see the unseen and to help others realize their own inner power. Whether through words, actions, or silent understanding, your strength lies in serving the awakening process within others and inspiring them to create their own transformations. To deepen this impact, Consider developing practices that sharpen your intuition and expand your awareness. Regular reflection on your motivations helps ensure your insights are used ethically. Cultivate patience, for change often unfolds gradually, and trust in the process. As you lead others towards self-discovery, remind yourself that your role is to facilitate, not to control, allowing your natural curiosity and wisdom to guide the way. Ultimately, your gentle influence can ignite sparks of possibility that lead others to transformed lives. When you recognize and align with the core of the magician archetype, you become an authentic facilitator of growth, planting seeds of insight that bloom into lasting change. Shadow magicians, the manipulator, the disconnected mystic. Many individuals who fall into the shadow of the magician archetype become masters at hiding behind their knowledge. They often believe that by accumulating facts, theories, or secrets, they can avoid facing uncomfortable truths or realities they find too challenging. This form of knowledge becomes a shield, a way to control perceptions or create an illusion of mastery. Imagine someone who spends hours researching mystical philosophies, yet never applies any of it to their life. Their learning becomes a way to stay disconnected from their own true experience. Recognizing this pattern involves being honest about whether your pursuits serve growth or merely serve avoidance. One common sign is the tendency to seek out endless information while avoiding action or genuine involvement. When knowledge becomes a way to stay detached emotionally, it serves as an escape route rather than a tool for understanding. This can look like constantly analyzing situations without making decisions, or feeling a sense of superiority because of what you know, while feeling disconnected from your own feelings. This disconnect can lead to a sense of emptiness or resentment, especially if you notice yourself withdrawing from authentic interactions or responsibilities. Developing awareness means observing whether your pursuit of knowledge leads to real self-awareness or merely feeds a need for control and separation from reality. Another indicator is the tendency to manipulate perceptions or to convince others that you have all the answers, rather than genuinely understanding the nuances of a situation. This is often rooted in a desire to maintain a sense of power or control over how others see you. For example, someone might spin stories or create elaborate explanations designed to impress, rather than share honest feelings or experiences. These behaviors serve as a mask for deeper insecurities or fears of vulnerability. Recognizing when your words or actions are more about controlling the narrative than seeking genuine connection is an essential step toward reclaiming authenticity. To identify if knowledge is being used as a tool for control or avoidance, reflect honestly on your motivations. Are you seeking understanding to grow and serve, or are you hiding from uncomfortable truths? Paying attention to moments where you feel the urge to prove your superiority or to escape emotional discomfort can provide clues. Sometimes, simply acknowledging this tendency allows you to pause and question whether your pursuit of knowledge is truly supportive or if it's a way to keep yourself safely apart from life's messiness and vulnerability. Practicing mindfulness can help reveal these patterns. When you notice yourself diving into learning or intellectualizing, ask, am I seeking clarity or am I avoiding the emotional reality? Is this knowledge fostering compassion or creating distance? Recognizing these subtle distinctions can empower you to shift from using knowledge as a shield toward using it as a bridge for genuine understanding. Ultimately, awareness is the first step toward healing the disconnect and transforming knowledge from a tool of escapism into a beacon of authentic growth. Reconnecting with genuine wisdom requires a shift away from the illusion of control and towards a mindset rooted in humility and service. Authentic wisdom is not about accumulating facts or possessing secrets. It is about embodying a living presence that is attentive to what truly matters. Think of a wise teacher who listens deeply, not just to respond, but to understand what the other person truly needs. That kind of wisdom arises from a state of openness and presence, where listening becomes more important than speaking, and humility replaces ego-driven knowledge. This process involves letting go of the need to impress others with what you know, and instead offering your genuine self. It means practicing sincere curiosity about your own experience and that of others, recognizing that true understanding often comes through direct experience and connection, not through theories or theories alone. For example, meditation or mindful breathing can help cultivate this presence, grounding you in the current moment and making you less likely to retreat into mental constructs of control. When rooted in service, wisdom acts as a tool for healing nurturing relationships, and creating meaningful change. To reconnect with authentic wisdom, start by shifting your focus from what you can get from knowledge to what you can give. This might involve offering support to others without expecting anything in return, sharing your experiences with honesty, or simply listening without judgment. Cultivating humility helps dissolve the illusion of mastery built on ego and replaces it with a humble acknowledgement that learning is a lifelong journey. Embodying this kind of wisdom invites others to do the same, creating a cycle of genuine connection and shared growth. Practicing presence is key. This means bringing full attention to what's happening now, rather than dwelling on past regrets or future worries. Reflect on moments when you felt truly alive or connected. These moments often reveal your true values and wisdom that needs no validation from others. Incorporate daily practices like mindful walking, journaling, or silence to honor this inner state. Wisdom grounded in service emphasizes that true power lies in humility, compassion, and authentic connection, not in controlling perceptions or escaping emotional discomfort. Remember, wisdom is a living force that grows through humility and connection. When you approach life with a genuine desire to serve others and stay present, your actions become expressions of a deeper understanding that no amount of secret knowledge can replicate. Trust that this shift will naturally draw you closer to your own truth and foster meaningful relationships that nourish your heart and soul, rather than keep you isolated behind layers of protective knowledge. One practical tip for cultivating this authentic wisdom is to regularly practice asking yourself, am I acting to serve or to impress? Or am I here to connect or to control? These questions help keep you grounded in the present moment and remind you of the importance of humility and service. By doing so consistently, you will gradually shift the focus from manipulation and escape toward genuine presence, bringing your life more into alignment with truth and compassion. This is where real power begins, when your actions are rooted in authentic understanding and heartfelt intention. Practice the mirror exercise, seeing patterns. Imagine you're driving down a familiar road, but suddenly you notice there are recurring potholes, or maybe a certain landmark keeps appearing in your rearview mirror. These patterns often hide beneath the surface of our everyday awareness, shaping how we respond, think, and feel without us realizing it. The mirror exercise is a simple yet powerful tool to make these hidden patterns visible by turning inward and observing your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors with curiosity. This practice invites you to act like a mirror for yourself, noticing what continually shows up in your life, those recurring themes that can hold clues to unconscious beliefs or unresolved issues. To start, set aside a few moments each day to reflect on your experiences. You might ask questions like, what thoughts kept recurring today? Or did I notice any emotional patterns that came up repeatedly? As you pay close attention, you might find that certain worries, reactions, or stories keep resurfacing. These are the footprints of beliefs or past experiences that have become familiar, often without your conscious awareness. Catching these moments helps you see the bigger picture, revealing underlying templates that guide your choices, whether they serve you well or keep you stuck in old habits. This process begins to shine a spotlight on the parts of yourself that rarely get attention, setting the stage for deep personal insight. Keeping a journal or a reflection notebook can amplify this awareness. Write down the patterns you observe over days or weeks. Are you constantly skeptical in new situations? Do you tend to avoid conflict? Do you find yourself seeking approval more than usual? The act of writing makes these themes concrete, helping you recognize their consistency and presence across different contexts. Over time, this reflection shapes an internal map of your recurring beliefs, feelings, and behaviors. You may discover that many patterns originate from past messages received during childhood or from repeated experiences. But now, with awareness, you gain the choice to question or navigate them differently. This is like uncovering the hidden roads you've been traveling without realizing, giving you a map for more deliberate movement through your life. Once you have begun to notice these patterns, the next step involves using that awareness to understand yourself more deeply. Think of self-awareness as a flashlight that illuminates the darker corners of your psyche, places you may have ignored or forgotten. As you observe your thoughts and feelings, ask yourself why you respond in certain ways. What belief might be fueling this reaction? For example, if you notice a tendency to doubting your abilities whenever faced with new challenges, you might trace that feeling back to an underlying belief like, I am not enough, or I must be perfect. Recognizing these core beliefs opens a door to change because you're no longer blindly reacting. Instead, you understand the roots of your behavior. Deepening your understanding requires patience and honesty. It's about gently uncovering stories you've told yourself for years, stories that may not even be true but have shaped your identity. For instance, if you find yourself avoiding certain social situations, you might explore whether a belief such as "I won't be accepted" is running automatically. Once you identify these thoughts, you can start questioning their validity. Are they grounded in reality, or are they assumptions carried from past experiences? This is where conscious choice begins. By reframing these narratives, you can gradually shift how you respond and behave. Self-awareness acts as a guiding light, helping you navigate toward behaviors and mindset shifts that align better with who you want to become. Incorporating mindfulness practices enhances this process. When you notice a recurring thought or feeling, pause briefly and observe it without judgment. Instead of reacting impulsively, ask yourself what this pattern is teaching you. Over time, recognizing these patterns becomes natural, and your responses start to shift. For example, if you notice a pattern of frustration during conflicts, you might choose to pause and take a breath, creating space for a more intentional reaction. This conscious approach allows you to act rather than be acted upon, gradually rewiring your responses based on awareness rather than old habits. Ultimately, it's about crafting a lifelong journey of self-discovery, understanding your patterns, questioning their origin, and intentionally directing your growth toward greater authenticity and well-being. A helpful tip for this work is to keep a pattern diary, a dedicated space to record insights, recurring themes, and breakthroughs. Regularly reviewing this diary can reveal subtle shifts and reinforce your understanding. Remember, this process isn't about perfection, but about gentle curiosity and ongoing discovery. The more honest you are with yourself, the clearer your internal map becomes. With patience, persistence, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths, you open the door to meaningful change and a deeper sense of self-awareness that continues to evolve long after you finish your initial reflections. Shadow Watch, using knowledge to control, not serve. Imagine a scenario where a leader or a company gathers detailed data about customers, employees, or competitors. At first glance, this knowledge appears to be a tool for better decision-making. But sometimes, those who hold the insights use them to sway opinions, manipulate behaviors, or maintain control in subtle ways. When insight shifts from a means of understanding to a weapon of influence, it often becomes hidden in plain sight, masked by the appearance of helpfulness or innovation. This dynamic manifests in various forms. For instance, a manager might subtly use employee performance data not just to support development, but to foster competition or create a sense of insecurity. A marketer might frame insights about consumer fears to push unnecessary products, emphasizing urgency to push sales more than genuinely helping the customer. The danger is that these tactics can be so cleverly disguised that even the insight holder might not realize they're steering others toward a desired outcome rather than empowering them. A critical part of noticing this kind of manipulation involves cultivating awareness of the intent behind the information shared. Are the insights being used to genuinely serve or to dominate? Is there an underlying motive to control perceptions or behaviors rather than to enlighten? Being mindful means asking questions like, who benefits from this insight? What is the real goal behind sharing this information? Does it lead to transparency or to a mask that hides manipulation? Recognizing these cues helps prevent overlooking subtle forms of control disguised as guidance or leadership. Stories from the past often shed light on this distinction. For example, a CEO once used detailed market insights not to improve the company's offerings, but to intimidate staff into conforming to a strict new vision. The true intent was to wield power rather than seek clarity. Recognizing such patterns requires practice. Noticing emotional responses, inconsistencies, or feelings of discomfort when certain insights are shared. Developing this sensitivity becomes crucial in guarding against the shadow side of knowledge, keeping it a tool for empowerment rather than a device of control. Humility with information means understanding that insights are not absolute truths but interpretations, seeing them as tools, not weapons. When you accept that your understanding and perceptions are limited, you create space for openness and honest dialogue. Practicing humility involves being transparent about what you know and what you don't, encouraging others to share their perspectives without fear of judgment or manipulation. This approach fosters trust and builds authentic relationships rather than hierarchies of power based on secret knowledge. Transparency is often seen as a sign of strength rather than weakness. When you share insights openly, it invites others to participate in the conversation, challenge assumptions, and contribute their own understanding. For example, explaining how a conclusion was reached or acknowledging gaps in data reminds everyone that knowledge is fluid and collective. This openness diminishes the chances of misusing information or falling into the trap of hidden agendas. Building a culture of humility and transparency involves simple yet powerful steps. Start by asking yourself, am I sharing this insight to genuinely help others, or am I trying to control the outcome? Approach every piece of knowledge with curiosity and a readiness to listen. When giving feedback or guidance, clarify that insights are a collaborative effort and welcome questions or alternative viewpoints. This approach fosters an environment where knowledge serves growth, not dominance. Reflect on stories of organizations or leaders who used humility to build loyalty and trust. For instance, some of the most respected leaders in history openly admitted their mistakes and shared uncertainties, which in turn inspired others to be honest and engaged. Practicing humility also involves being aware of the potential for bias, recognizing that your perspective might be skewed or incomplete. As you develop this mindset, you'll find it easier to resist the temptation of wielding insights as tools for control and instead use them to foster genuine understanding and mutual respect. Journal. What do I know, but hide? Many of us carry secrets we've never really confronted openly, often because revealing them seems risky or uncomfortable. These hidden truths can be small, like a passing regret, or significant, such as long-standing fears or unresolved pain. When we suppress these feelings, it's like locking parts of ourselves away in a dusty chest, out of sight but not out of mind. Over time, these unspoken truths can accumulate shadows within us, shaping our perceptions and reactions in ways we might not fully realize. Sometimes fear is the main barrier, fear of judgment, rejection, or vulnerability. Shame, on the other hand, often ties these secrets to a sense of unworthiness or failure, making it even harder to face them. Yet, avoiding these truths rarely makes them disappear. Instead, they can deepen, whispering in the background, influencing our decisions and relationships. Recognizing what we hide is the first step toward understanding how these concealed feelings impact our everyday lives. Asking ourselves honest questions, what truths am I avoiding? What do I feel ashamed of? Can open a door to self-awareness that is both freeing and necessary for growth. It's also helpful to recall that everyone carries some hidden aspect of themselves. That's part of being human, and shining light on these areas is never as daunting as it seems when approached with kindness and curiosity. Facing the truths we hide is an act of courage, one that ultimately allows us to reclaim parts of ourselves lost in shame or fear. When we see these secrets as mere pieces of our story rather than define us, that's when real healing begins. Journaling stands out as one of the most accessible, honest ways to start unveiling what we tend to keep hidden. Unlike talking to others, where fears of judgment or misunderstanding can hold us back, writing offers a private space where we can be entirely truthful without worry. By putting pen to paper, we create a safe outlet to express feelings we may not even fully understand ourselves. This practice helps disarm the shame that often erects barriers around our secrets, slowly transforming silence into clarity. When we write, we can explore complex emotions with patience, giving ourselves permission to feel sadness, anger, or vulnerability without needing to fix or suppress them. Journaling can become a journey of self-acceptance, turning hidden truths into tangible words that can be examined with compassion. Some find it helpful to set aside specific times, like a few minutes each morning or evening, to write freely, making it a regular ritual of honesty. Others prefer prompts, such as "What have I been avoiding?" or "What am I most afraid to admit?" to guide their reflection. Over time, this consistent honesty with oneself fosters a sense of liberation, breaking down the walls of shame that kept these truths buried. It transforms the act of writing from mere recording into a form of self-empowerment and release, allowing hidden parts of ourselves to surface and be acknowledged. Ultimately, journaling becomes not only a mirror reflecting who we are, but also a window through which we can see how our past, present, and future are intertwined, revealing pathways toward healing and acceptance. Chapter 6. The Lover, the archetype of connection, emotion, and presence. He feels fully, embraces beauty, lives with passion. Imagine standing in a sun-dappled forest, feeling the warmth on your skin, hearing the gentle rustle of leaves, and sensing the life all around you. This moment captures the essence of the lover's connection to presence, being fully here, fully alive. It's not just about sensual pleasure, but a deep appreciation for the visceral experience of life itself. When someone embodies this archetype, they unconsciously cultivate a mindset that honors the body's wisdom and the beauty inherent in ordinary moments. They see life as a series of opportunities to connect, to feel, and to savor, turning everyday experiences into celebrations. This approach invites us to see ourselves as active participants in life's symphony rather than detached observers. It's about feeling deeply, whether through touch, sight, or emotion, and recognizing that life's richness is always available if we open ourselves to it. To embody this perspective requires honing the ability to truly notice and immerse ourselves in our surroundings. Instead of rushing through the day on autopilot, a lover's mindset calls for slowing down and savoring each breath, each glance, each sensation. It involves cultivating an attitude of reverence for beauty, whether in nature, art, or human connections. This isn't about superficial pleasure, but a profound appreciation that awakens our senses and connects us to a greater sense of purpose. For example, taking the time to really watch a sunset without distraction, to notice the intricate dance of colors or the quiet hush in the air. This practice nurtures a relationship with life marked by gratitude, curiosity, and an openness to the deep, often overlooked pleasures that surround us. Over time, this cultivated appreciation fosters a sense of embodied presence that becomes second nature. Living with passion and fully embracing beauty can sometimes feel risky because it requires exposing ourselves to intense feelings and vulnerability. Yet, this openness is at the heart of truly experiencing life as a lover archetype. When we allow ourselves to feel deeply, whether joy, sorrow, gratitude, or longing, we connect more authentically with ourselves and others. Vulnerability isn't a sign of weakness, but a courageous act that dissolves the barriers keeping us from genuine presence. For instance, opening your heart to someone you trust or allowing yourself to fully experience a moment of vulnerability in solitude enhances your ability to live passionately. It's about letting go of the armor of cynicism or emotional detachment that can prevent us from savoring life's depth. When we're willing to face uncomfortable feelings, we discover that they often carry the most meaningful insights and foster a sense of living wholeheartedly. This willingness to feel deeply transforms not only our internal landscape, but also how we relate externally. It encourages us to be more honest and authentic in our expressions, whether through words, gestures, or silence. Many stories across cultures show that vulnerability often leads to profound connections. Think of romantic narratives or mythic heroes who risk everything for love. Practicing openness involves small acts like sharing a sincere compliment or expressing gratitude without fear of judgment. It also means embracing the messiness of emotional life, knowing that genuine passion involves both joy and pain. When we give ourselves permission to feel without filter, we unlock a richness of experience that fuels our ability to live with enthusiasm and to truly appreciate the depths of our human nature. The lover in life, artists, romantics, friends, sensuality. Many of us have experienced moments when passion ignites unexpectedly, fueling our creative pursuits or deepening connections with others. The lover archetype often shows up in these moments through a heightened awareness of beauty, sensations, and emotional depth. For artists, this manifests as a pursuit of evocative imagery, music, or storytelling that stirs feelings in both creator and audience. It's that desire to pour one's innermost emotions onto a canvas or through words, aiming to make invisible feelings visible. In intimacy, the lover's presence is felt when we cherish closeness, savoring touch, conversation, or shared silence, experiencing each moment as deeply meaningful. Emotional sensitivity, as a core trait of this archetype, means being attuned to subtle shifts in mood, tone, or energy, often sensing unspoken needs or desires beneath surface interactions. At its best, this manifestation encourages us to see beauty everywhere, from a sunrise to a simple gesture, and to honor our own feelings as valid and important. The lover invites us to connect deeply with ourselves and others, recognizing that vulnerability is not a weakness, but a bridge to intimacy. Creative expression becomes a vital outlet for processing and sharing these emotional nuances, transforming raw feelings into art, dance, or craft that resonate with others' experiences. Some people find the lover manifests in romantic relationships with a desire for profound connection, often craving authenticity over superficial encounters. Others may experience this archetype outside of romance, in a passion for something that awakens their senses, like cooking, gardening, or exploring new cultural experiences. Paying attention to these moments can reveal how the lover's energy influences your emotional landscape and creative expression. Recognizing this archetype within ourselves involves observing the times when beauty, passion, or vulnerability naturally draw us in. Are there particular activities, conversations, or sensations that ignite this feeling? Do we find ourselves longing to express or share what moves us? When you notice your heart responding intensely to art or connection, it hints at the lover's influence. Cultivating this awareness helps you understand when the lover is guiding your choices, be it through an urge to create, seek intimacy, or indulge in sensory pleasures. Embracing these moments invites you to live more fully in your feelings, enriching your experiences, and deepening your understanding of what truly matters to you. Understanding how the lover expresses itself can also shed light on areas where we may resist vulnerability or overindulge in superficiality. For example, some might use beauty or sensual pleasure as a distraction from facing their deeper feelings or fears. Others might shy away from intimacy to avoid potential rejection or pain. Recognizing these patterns offers an opportunity to balance the lover's drive with groundedness, ensuring that emotional sensitivity enhances rather than overwhelms us. Whether in art, love, or daily life, the lover urges us to stay open to the richness of human experience, embracing both pleasure and pain as integral parts of growth and self-discovery. The deeper purpose of the lover archetype is found in connection, how we relate to others and ourselves. Genuine relationships often require vulnerability, which is where the lover's influence becomes most powerful. When we allow ourselves to feel deeply, we create the space for authentic bonds to form. Such connections are not superficial but rooted in shared emotion, mutual understanding, and an openness that fosters trust. Embracing connection as a path to fulfillment involves shifting from superficial interactions to those that nourish our soul and acknowledge our authenticity. It requires honesty about our feelings, desires, and fears, inviting others into spaces of genuine intimacy. When we do so, we often discover that true fulfillment arises not from external achievements, but from these heartfelt exchanges that affirm who we are at our core. Sometimes, genuine connection challenges us to confront our shadows, the fears of rejection, insignificance, or loss that can block intimacy. Yet, leaning into these fears allows us to move beyond surface-level relationships toward bonds that are truly enriching. The lover invites us to be fully present with others, appreciating their uniqueness without judgment or expectation. This openness often cultivates a sense of belonging, reminding us that we are not alone in our experiences, feelings, or struggles. For many, embracing connection also means reconnecting with parts of themselves that have been neglected, rediscovering passions, interests, or feelings that may have been suppressed. This process often leads to a more integrated sense of self, where emotions serve as guides rather than obstacles. Building this kind of authentic connection can be practiced through simple acts like active listening, sharing your vulnerabilities, or engaging in activities that allow emotional expression. It's about creating a space where both parties feel seen and heard. As you deepen your relationships, you may find that fulfillment expands beyond individual pleasure or achievement, becoming a shared journey of discovery. Engaging in honest communication and nurturing mutual appreciation fosters bonds that sustain through life's inevitable challenges. The lover reminds us that true fulfillment is found in heartfelt exchanges, moments where we feel truly known and accepted, and that such connection enriches every part of our lives. Finally, embracing connection as a path to authenticity encourages us to live more openly, shedding pretenses and embracing our true selves. When connection flows freely, our relationships transform from mere interactions into meaningful exchanges that shape us. The act of cultivating this openness can serve as a daily practice. Whether through mindful conversations, acts of kindness, or simply paying closer attention to your own feelings. Over time, these small acts deepen trust and deepen your capacity for love, making connection itself a source of growth and fulfillment rather than a mere goal to attain. Remember, the essence of the lover archetype is about experiencing life fully, through the richness of genuine emotional engagement and shared vulnerability. Shadow lovers, the addict, the lost romantic. Many individuals drawn into the shadow of the romantic archetype tend to fall into certain patterns that mask deeper issues. Emotional dependency often shows up as a persistent need for reassurance or validation from others, especially in romantic contexts. These individuals might struggle to feel safe or complete on their own, seeking constant connection to avoid feelings of loneliness or inadequacy. They may cling to relationships long after they've become harmful, convinced that their happiness depends solely on the other person. Recognizing these tendencies involves observing how much of your emotional energy is tied exclusively to others, especially when you find it difficult to trust your own judgment or to stand alone confidently. Escapism manifests in this archetype as a tendency to retreat into fantasy, idealization, or even destructive habits to avoid facing uncomfortable truths or personal shortcomings. Instead of confronting the roots of their dissatisfaction, such individuals might immerse themselves in romantic stories, social media illusions, or addictive behaviors like excessive partying or substance use. These activities serve as temporary relief, but prevent genuine self-awareness and growth. Superficiality can also be a defense mechanism, focusing on surface appearances, glamorous illusions, or fleeting passions to mask internal emptiness or unresolved wounds. Catching oneself engaging in superficial conversations or valuing external validation over authentic connection is a strong sign that these patterns are at play. To identify these tendencies in yourself, consider reflecting on the quality of your relationships and emotional experiences. Are your bonds primarily driven by fear of loneliness or craving validation? Do you find yourself frequently escaping into superficial pursuits or avoiding heartfelt truths? Paying attention to how often you seek external approval or feel anxious when alone can provide clues. Journaling about your emotional responses and relationship patterns can help you spot recurring themes. Asking close friends or a therapist for honest feedback might also reveal hidden dependencies or escapism that you haven't acknowledged. Awareness is the first step toward transforming these patterns into healthier, more balanced behaviors. For those influenced by the shadow of the romantic archetype, the challenge often lies in maintaining passion without becoming overwhelmed by impulsiveness or lack of clarity. The key is developing a sense of discernment, an internal capacity to evaluate feelings and situations with honesty and patience. When passion runs high, it can cloud judgment, leading to impulsive decisions or pursuing relationships that serve more of a fantasy than reality. Self-awareness acts as a compass, grounding emotional intensity in a conscious understanding of your motives, fears, and needs. Striking this balance involves cultivating curiosity about yourself, recognizing your triggers, and learning to sit with your feelings without immediately acting on them. This process of balancing passion and discernment often involves regular reflection, asking yourself questions like, why am I drawn to this person or situation? Am I seeking genuine connection or avoiding something within myself? It's also helpful to establish boundaries that prevent impulsive behaviors from spiraling out of control. Practicing mindfulness or meditation can foster greater awareness of your emotional currents, helping you distinguish between fleeting infatuation and deep, meaningful connection. Building a practice of patience allows you to observe your feelings without rushing into decisions or relationships that might be driven by superficial longing. Over time, this cultivates healthier patterns that honor your true self while allowing passion to flourish responsibly. Learning to discern the difference between healthy desire and unchecked obsession is fundamental. For example, recognizing that intense feelings may be a sign of inner neediness rather than authentic connection can save you from painful cycles. Developing honest self-awareness means being willing to look at your vulnerabilities and fears without judgment, understanding that all emotions serve a purpose. When you acknowledge your internal landscape with kindness, you gain clarity, making it easier to pursue relationships or passions that truly align with your values. Ultimately, balancing passion with discernment creates a more sustainable, fulfilling experience of love, one grounded in authenticity rather than illusion. Practice the savoring ritual. Imagine standing in a busy park, absorbing the gentle hum of life around you. Notice how your senses alert, capturing the warmth of the sun on your skin, the scent of blooming flowers, or the distant laughter of children. This simple act of tuning into what's happening right now forms the foundation of savoring. It's about training yourself to be fully present, engrossed in the sensations that often go unnoticed amidst daily distractions. When you focus your attention on the small details, like the texture of your coffee, the rhythm of your breathing, or the feeling of your chair supporting you, you create a moment of clarity and connection with life as it unfolds. This practice doesn't require any special equipment or time. It's accessible anywhere, anytime, as long as you pause long enough to notice. Developing this kind of presence involves intentionally shifting your focus away from worries about the past or future. It's about immersing yourself in what is happening right now, recognizing that each moment holds unique beauty and significance. One way to do this is through mindful observation, taking a few breaths to settle into the present before engaging with your surroundings. For example, if you're eating, genuinely savor each bite, noticing the flavors, textures, and temperatures. Over time, these moments accumulate, strengthening your ability to stay rooted in the present even during hectic days. Instead of rushing past experiences, you learn to slow down and truly engage, which enhances your overall appreciation of life's simple pleasures. Another essential element is accepting sensations without judgment. This means observing discomfort or fleeting emotions without trying to change or fix them. For example, if you feel tension in your shoulders or frustration bubbling up, acknowledge it without criticizing yourself. This gentle acceptance fosters a compassionate attitude towards your experience and deepens your capacity for gratitude. By regularly practicing this mindful appreciation of sensations, whether joy or discomfort, you begin to notice patterns and shifts within yourself. Eventually, this cultivates a more resilient and spacious mind, enabling you to savor even difficult moments, knowing they are transient parts of the broader texture of your life. Simple routines can anchor this practice. Take a few moments each day to pause and fully experience something familiar. It could be the sensation of your feet on the ground during a walk or the warmth of a loved one's hand. The key is consistency, small daily acts of mindfulness that build your capacity to stay present. Over time, these moments become more vivid and meaningful, enriching your everyday experience with a deeper sense of connection and joy. Remember, savoring is not about controlling outcomes, but about opening yourself to whatever is happening, perceiving it with curiosity and openness. This shift in perspective can turn ordinary experiences into rich, memorable moments that nourish your soul. As you cultivate presence through mindful appreciation, you naturally expand your ability to experience joy and create stronger bonds with others. When you're truly present, your interactions become more genuine, and you become more attuned to the feelings and needs of those around you. Consider how a simple act, like listening deeply to a friend, can deepen the connection. When your full attention is on them, you're not just hearing their words but feeling their emotions, sensing their energy, and offering genuine understanding. This openness encourages trust and warmth, boosting your capacity for shared happiness. It's not about trying to force or manufacture joy, but about welcoming it as it naturally arises from authentic engagement. Joy often blooms from small, seemingly insignificant moments when you're fully present. The laughter of children, the beauty of a sunset, or the quiet satisfaction of a well-cooked meal all become more impactful when you're savoring them consciously. Engaging in activities with mindful intention transforms mundane routines into opportunities for delight. For instance, washing dishes can become meditative if you notice the feel of warm water, the scent of soap, and the rhythm of your movements. These moments, repeated regularly, foster a subtle yet profound shift. Your everyday experiences deepen in meaning, and your heart becomes more receptive to joy. Over time, this mindset nurtures resilience, allowing you to find happiness even amidst challenges, knowing that genuine connection and appreciation are always within reach. Building on this, strengthening your capacity for connection involves fostering a sense of gratitude and compassion. When you acknowledge the value in others and express sincere appreciation, you create a reciprocal wave of positivity. Simple practices like sharing a heartfelt compliment, expressing thanks, or just being fully present during conversations can enhance your relationships. Such acts deepen trust and foster a sense of belonging, which in turn amplifies your own sense of happiness. The more you practice noticing moments of beauty and kindness, both in yourself and others, the more your life becomes infused with meaningful connection. This creates a cycle. Authentic presence nurtures joy, which then naturally extends outward into your interactions, enriching your overall experience of life. Another way to deepen your capacity for joy is by becoming more aware of your emotional landscape. Notice how positive emotions like gratitude, curiosity, or compassion thrive when you're attentive to them. Cultivating an attitude of gentle curiosity about your feelings opens the door to experiencing more richness in life. For example, reflecting on what brought you genuine happiness during the day helps reinforce positive patterns, making joyful moments more frequent and accessible. When you consciously foster these feelings, perhaps through gratitude journaling or mindful reflection, you're cultivating a reservoir of emotional resilience. This reservoir supports you during difficult times, reminding you of the abundance of goodness that exists in the everyday moments you often overlook. Ultimately, the practice of savoring transforms how you relate to life. It encourages you to see each moment as an opportunity for deeper connection, both internally with yourself and externally with others. Consistently bringing awareness to sensations and experiences leads to a richer, more textured life, where joy is not something elusive, but a natural byproduct of your attentive presence. The habit of savoring isn't about striving for happiness, but about cultivating a mindset that naturally finds delight and meaning in the here and now. Keep in mind that even small shifts in attention can lead to profound changes. So start with simple practices, stay patient, and let the quiet magic of mindfulness do its gentle work within you. Shadow watch, chasing highs instead of depth. Many people find themselves caught in a pattern of constantly chasing after new experiences or external validation, often without realizing how much this habit distances them from authentic connections. Imagine sitting in a room full of friends, yet your mind races toward the latest social media notifications or the newest buzzes that promise excitement. This craving for external stimulation acts like a temporary high, momentarily distracting us from inner emptiness or unresolved feelings. Over time, this pattern becomes a default mode, where external events or fleeting pleasures overshadow the deeper, more meaningful aspects of life. It's as if the mind gets conditioned to seek immediate gratification, always looking outward for reassurance rather than turning inward to explore genuine intimacy. This tendency can stem from a variety of causes. Sometimes it's linked to fear of vulnerability, loneliness, or even failure, which makes superficial distractions seem safer than facing complex emotions. Others might be influenced by societal pressures that glorify busyness and constant activity, convincing us that happiness is found in the next adventure, the next post, or the next purchase. Yet underneath this relentless pursuit lies a core craving for connection, a need to feel seen, understood, and valued. When we continue to prioritize external stimuli, we risk building a life filled with noise, but devoid of quiet moments where true intimacy can flourish. Recognizing this pattern begins with observing your own impulses. Note what pulls your attention away from those subtle moments of connection that are actually life's real treasures. Ask yourself, am I truly present with others, or am I more focused on curating an image or seeking approval? To shift this tendency, it's helpful to start paying attention to your cravings for external highs and gently question their place in your life. Sometimes, simply pausing before reacting to the urge for the next distraction lets you develop awareness. When you notice yourself reaching for your phone or rushing to fill silence with noise, take a moment to ask what you are really seeking. Is it approval, excitement, or a brief escape from uncomfortable feelings? By becoming more conscious of these patterns, you can begin to build a healthier relationship with yourself and others, one rooted in presence rather than perpetual stimulation. Remember, genuine intimacy is built not on constant activity, but on the quiet, honest moments of vulnerability that often feel the hardest to embrace at first. Developing resilience in the face of emotional fluctuations is like creating a steady anchor amidst a storm. Instead of getting carried away by intense feelings, whether they are euphoria or despair, grounding practices teach us to stay rooted in the present moment and find balance within ourselves. One effective way to do this is by connecting with your body through simple exercises like deep breathing, noticing physical sensations, or gentle movement. Imagine taking a slow, full breath, feeling your chest rise and fall. This act alone can bring your focus back to your body's stability, anchoring you when emotions threaten to overwhelm. Over time, practicing these techniques helps build a kind of emotional armor, enabling you to experience highs without losing yourself and to withstand lows without spiraling into despair. Another powerful approach is cultivating mindfulness, paying non-judgmental attention to what's happening inside and around you. When you notice feelings rising, instead of battling them or suppressing them, acknowledge them as passing clouds in the sky of your awareness. For example, if frustration or anxiety surfaces, observe that sensation calmly, without attaching a story or judgment to it. This detachment allows feelings to flow through rather than take hold, reducing their grip on your mental state. Regularly engaging in practices like meditation, body scans, or even mindful walking can create a buffer against emotional extremes. These activities encourage an open acceptance of emotions, helping you recognize that highs and lows are natural parts of life, rather than events to be feared or escaped from. Building resilience isn't just about managing emotions. It's also about developing a sense of inner strength rooted in self-awareness. Reflect on areas where emotional reactions tend to dominate your life, and experiment with grounding exercises tailored to your habits. For some, journaling early in the day can clarify feelings and set a balanced tone. For others, taking a moment to feel their feet on the ground might suffice. Commit to a regular routine, so these practices become second nature, gradually diminishing the power of emotional highs and lows. Over time, you'll find yourself more capable of navigating life's inevitable turbulence with a sense of calm and clarity, making it easier to sustain authentic connections and personal growth even in challenging moments. Journal. Where do I avoid intimacy and why? For many, opening up emotionally feels like stepping into a storm, unpredictable and threatening in its intensity. Deep inside, there can be lingering fears rooted in past experiences, such as betrayal, rejection, or hurt, which make the idea of intimacy seem unsafe. These fears act as natural protective shields, built over time to guard against pain, but often blocking genuine connection in the process. Imagine someone who has been hurt repeatedly in trust. They might instinctively shy away from close relationships, fearing the pain of abandonment or disappointment might return. Often, these barriers are not even fully conscious. They are the subconscious maps guiding our interactions and choices. Sometimes, these fears stem from stories we internalized early in life, perhaps a parent's emotional unavailability or a betrayal by a close friend. These stories can solidify into beliefs like I'm not worthy of love or people can't be trusted. As a result, even when we crave deeper intimacy, doubts and fears whisper that vulnerability will only lead to more pain. It's like carrying around invisible armor, protective layers that feel necessary but also prevent us from experiencing authentic closeness. Recognizing these fears isn't about judging oneself, but understanding that they have roots, and they shape how we relate to others, often without us realizing it. Identifying what keeps us from opening up requires honest reflection. It might involve asking, what do I fear will happen if I show my true self? Do I worry I'll be judged, rejected, or misunderstood? Or perhaps I'm afraid I'll lose control or appear weak. These questions can uncover core beliefs that unconsciously steer our actions. For some, it's easier to avoid intimacy altogether than risk facing these fears. Acknowledging these barriers gently, without judgment, is the first step toward loosening their grip. That awareness alone can be a powerful catalyst for change, because when we understand what holds us back, we gain the ability to confront and gradually dismantle those emotional walls. Journaling offers a safe, private space to confront these fears and understand their origins. When you put pencil to paper, you create a bridge between your conscious mind and deeper layers of your emotional landscape. Start by asking yourself simple questions like, when do I feel most afraid to be seen? What memories or thoughts come up when I think about trusting someone fully? Allow yourself to write freely, without editing or judgment. This process can unearth hidden fears or limiting beliefs that usually stay buried beneath the surface. Over time, consistent journaling acts as a mirror, revealing patterns and themes that help clarify what specific barriers are rooted in your experience. As you explore your feelings through writing, it's beneficial to approach it with curiosity rather than criticism. For instance, if you notice a recurring thought such as if I reveal my true self, I'll be abandoned, write about where that thought originated and what it feels like. Sometimes, simply expressing these fears diminishes their power, making them easier to face. You might also use writing to envision scenarios where vulnerability led to positive outcomes. For example, imagine a time when sharing your feelings resulted in understanding rather than rejection. These affirmations and reflections serve as mental rehearsals, gradually rewiring your responses to emotional risks. Another helpful technique is to write letters, either to yourself or to someone from your past, addressing unspoken feelings or grievances. This can be especially useful if your emotional walls are tied to unresolved issues or past betrayals. By giving voice to suppressed emotions, you acknowledge their presence and begin to release their hold. Over time, journaling not only helps you understand your barriers, but also empowers you to take small, manageable steps toward emotional openness. It transforms the abstract, often overwhelming concept of vulnerability into a series of approachable, personal actions, each one bringing you closer to authentic connection. As you develop this practice, try to set aside regular time for journaling, creating a routine that feels safe and manageable. Use prompts like, "What am I afraid will happen if I let someone in?" Or "What evidence do I have that supports or contradicts my fears?" Remember, the goal isn't perfection or immediate openness, but honest self-exploration. Over time, this process helps dissolve the emotional walls that block intimacy, revealing a more authentic self ready to connect. When combined with patience and compassion, journaling becomes a gentle yet powerful instrument for healing and growth in your journey toward vulnerability. Chapter 7. When Archetypes Collide. Internal conflict. The warrior wants action, the lover wants rest. Imagine a time when you felt a strong urge to take immediate action, to stand up and face a challenge head-on. At the same moment, a quiet voice whispers for you to pause, rest, and reflect. This scenario captures the essence of internal conflict, where different parts of ourselves seem to pull in opposite directions. These conflicting impulses often originate from deep-seated archetypes, universal patterns of behavior that influence how we see ourselves and the world. The warrior archetype, for instance, thrives on action, strength, and taking risks. It pushes us to confront obstacles, to be proactive, and to conquer. Conversely, the lover archetype yearns for connection, peace, and nurturing, guiding us towards rest, reflection, and emotional intimacy. When these archetypes are active simultaneously, they create a tension that can be confusing and even exhausting. Understanding that these opposing drives are rooted in ancient, symbolic patterns can help us see them not as flaws, but as natural parts of the human experience. These archetypes act like internal teams, each with their own wisdom and purpose, but when they clash, it's like an internal tug-of-war. Recognizing their voices and motivations allows us to begin the process of listening more carefully and understanding how these forces shape our decisions and feelings. Feeling restless yet also needing rest, anxious yet longing for peace. These are common signs of internal conflict. You might notice a persistent feeling of being pulled in different directions whenever you face a decision or a challenge. Sometimes, this manifests as frustration, indecision, or guilt, especially when one part of you criticizes another for its desires. For example, the warrior might push for productivity and action, casting rest and downtime as laziness or weakness. Meanwhile, the lover might prioritize soothing rituals, time with loved ones, or solitude, deeming overwork as stress-inducing or unfulfilling. Recognizing these patterns involves paying close attention to your body and emotions. Notice where tension, resistance, or guilt show up. Learning to integrate these conflicting energies begins with acceptance. Instead of trying to suppress one impulse in favor of the other, allow each to speak. For example, you might acknowledge your urge to work as part of your natural motivation, while also honoring your need for rest. Practicing mindfulness helps create space for both energies to coexist without judgment. Over time, you can start to see these archetypes not as opposites, but as complementary forces that, when balanced, create a more authentic and whole version of yourself. Integration involves asking yourself, what does each archetype need right now? And trusting that addressing both needs leads to greater resilience and inner harmony. To enhance this process, reflect on times when you felt conflicted. What was happening internally? Did you notice a voice urging you to act, or a call to pause? What feelings did each evoke? By observing these moments without judgment, you can begin to tune into the underlying messages from your archetypes. A useful exercise is to have an internal dialogue where you imagine speaking to each part of yourself, the warrior and the lover, and listen to what they say. This isn't about giving in to every impulse, but understanding their purpose and needs. As you become more familiar with these archetypes, you may find yourself navigating conflicts more skillfully, choosing actions that honor both drives rather than suppress one. Remember, inner harmony is less about eliminating conflict and more about recognizing its legitimacy and shaping it into a balanced, constructive force within your life. How to hold space for all of them. Holding space for all your inner voices begins with developing a gentle awareness. Imagine a garden where different plants represent different parts of yourself, each with its own needs, seasonality, and growth cycle. Some voices may be loud and insistent, demanding immediate attention, while others whisper softly in the background. When you approach each with curiosity instead of judgment, compassion naturally arises. Recognize that every archetype, whether it's the protector, the caregiver, the critic, or the dreamer, has a purpose rooted in your life's experience. Nurturing them requires patience. Growth doesn't happen overnight, and some voices may resist being heard at first. Accepting this means giving yourself permission to slow down, listen, and respond with kindness. Reflect on times when you've overlooked or dismissed a part of yourself. See how that often leads to internal tension or feelings of disconnect. By practicing compassion and patience, you create a safe environment where your different voices can express themselves without fear of rejection, paving the way for genuine understanding and integration. Building this compassionate foundation involves a series of mindful steps. Start by noticing your internal reactions. When certain voices become louder or more dominant, pause and ask yourself what they might be trying to tell you. Do they stem from fear, anger, longing, or shame? Instead of pushing these feelings away, welcome them as messengers. With patience, you can gently hold space for them, understanding that they're trying to keep you safe or serve a deeper purpose. It's helpful to cultivate self-compassion through practices like breath awareness or journaling, where you write down the different voices that emerge and observe their tone and content. This ongoing process reminds us that these parts are not enemies, but rather companions on your journey. Over time, nurturing patience and compassion will empower you to foster a more harmonious inner landscape, where each archetype can be heard, acknowledged, and appreciated. In daily life, remind yourself that internal work is a dance, not a race. When conflicts arise, instead of reacting impulsively, pause for a moment of reflection. Notice which voice is speaking and what it needs. For example, if the critic surfaces and starts pointing out flaws, recognize that this voice may be trying to protect you from failure, even if it feels harsh. Gently thank it for its concern, but also reassure it that you're safe enough to try and make mistakes. Over time, this gentle acknowledgement can soften the critic's tone and soften internal defenses. Remember that patience extends far beyond moments of inner tension. It's also about sustaining a loving attitude as your internal ensemble shifts and evolves. Every step forward, no matter how small, is part of a broader process of healing and self-discovery that requires kindness, understanding, and unwavering patience. Balancing the conflicting voices within your inner council often resembles managing a lively group of personalities, each with their own opinions and desires. When the protector insists on control while the dreamer yearns for freedom, or the critic sabotages attempts at growth while the compassionate voice encourages new steps, internal harmony can feel elusive. The first step in finding balance is acknowledging these differences without judgment. Recognize that each impulse has a reason rooted in past experiences or subconscious programming. Once you identify these voices, create a dialogue where each one gets a chance to express its needs and concerns. You might imagine yourself as a mediator or referee, listening to all sides before deciding how to proceed. One practical approach involves visualizing your inner council sitting around a table, each representing a different archetype. Take turns asking each voice what it wants, why it feels threatened or excited, and what it hopes to achieve. This process can reveal underlying fears or desires that aren't immediately obvious. After hearing each voice out, ask yourself which impulses serve your highest good and which may be rooted in old patterns or outdated beliefs. Then, aim to find a middle ground, a compromise that honors both the cautious protector and the adventurous dreamer. Developing this ongoing dialogue helps prevent internal conflicts from escalating into emotional overwhelm or paralysis. Instead, you create a space where different impulses are acknowledged and integrated, leading to more authentic decision-making. Implementing specific tools can make this balancing act more manageable. For example, setting aside dedicated reflection time, either through journaling or meditation, allows you to monitor these internal dynamics regularly. You can also use affirmations to reinforce your capacity to hold conflicting impulses. Phrases like "all parts of me are welcome" or "I honor each voice's intention" foster an attitude of inclusivity. When conflicts are particularly intense, Grounding practices such as deep breathing or physical movement can help diffuse tension and restore equilibrium. Remember that internal balance isn't static. It's an ongoing process of listening, adjusting, and integrating. As you become more aware of your inner landscape, you'll find it easier to navigate conflicting impulses with grace, patience, and clarity, ultimately creating a more cohesive internal team capable of supporting your growth and well-being. Sometimes, the greatest challenge lies in resisting the urge to suppress certain voices because they seem inconvenient or uncomfortable. Instead, see them as allies in disguise, each holding pieces of your truth. With repeated practice, the process of mediating between conflicting impulses becomes more natural, helping you act from a place of inner harmony rather than reaction. The key is maintaining patience with yourself as you explore these inner dialogues. This is not a quick fix, but a lifelong skill that deepens with time and gentle persistence. Over time, you'll learn to recognize when certain voices need more space and when others can be temporarily silenced so you can move forward intentionally. This ongoing balancing act, rooted in awareness and compassion, becomes the foundation for authentic inner leadership and deeper self-acceptance. Signs of imbalance in relationships, work, and emotions. Imagine a person named Sarah who always finds herself craving control in her relationships, yet this desire quickly turns into rigidity and conflict. At first glance, her need for order seems harmless, even admirable, but gradually, her interactions become tense and disconnected. This pattern might stem from an unbalanced archetypal energy, specifically a dominant or distorted reflection of the control archetype. When archetypes are out of alignment, they tend to manifest in ways that distort their natural qualities. Control, for instance, when unbalanced, can lead to overbearing behavior, while in its healthy state, it provides direction and stability. Recognizing these patterns within ourselves requires attentiveness to recurring themes. Notice if certain behaviors seem to lead to more conflict than peace, or if you repeatedly attract or experience dynamics that drain energy rather than nourish it. These signs are often linked to energies that have become overly dominant or repressed. For example, someone with an unbalanced caregiver archetype might become overly self-sacrificing, always putting others' needs before their own, which gradually leads to burnout or resentment. Alternatively, a person stuck in the shadow of the hero archetype might push themselves relentlessly, ignoring signals of exhaustion and losing touch with their true desires. Within relationships, these imbalances often reveal themselves through mismatched energies. One partner might be overly passive while the other is excessively aggressive, creating a tug-of-war that erodes trust and connection. Recognizing these dynamics involves observing the repetition of specific conflicts, moods, or reactions that seem to surface repeatedly. These patterns often act like telltale signs that some archetypal energies are out of sync, either exaggerated or suppressed, causing friction on both personal and social levels. Learning to identify these signs is like tuning into an internal radar, guiding you toward what's misaligned and needs attention. Once you become aware of the recurring patterns, look beneath the surface to understand their origins. Archetypal wounds or distortions often originate from childhood experiences, cultural conditioning, or personal trauma that distort the authentic expression of certain energies. For example, a person who grew up in a highly controlled environment might develop a fear of chaos, leading to rigid behaviors later in life. Conversely, someone who experienced neglect might unconsciously seek validation through excessive caretaking or servitude. Recognizing these roots helps in understanding why certain archetypal energies become unbalanced and how they manifest in daily life. Awareness of these patterns is the first step toward restoring balance. But simply knowing what's out of sync isn't enough. It's about how you respond to that awareness. When you start to notice familiar patterns, such as feeling consistently anxious when relinquishing control or becoming resentful when sacrificing for others, it signals the need for conscious intervention. Becoming aware allows you to step back and view these reactions objectively, creating space for choice instead of just reacting impulsively. This sense of conscious observation is like shining a light into the shadowed corners of your mind where these imbalances reside. One effective way to foster awareness is through reflective practices. Regularly asking yourself questions like, what motivates this behavior? Or what need is going unmet here? Helps you identify which archetypal energies are in play. Journaling can deepen this understanding, as written reflection often reveals hidden patterns and underlying fears. Another powerful tool is mindfulness, simply observing your thoughts, feelings, and body sensations without judgment. Over time, this practice sharpens your ability to catch unhelpful patterns early, giving you the chance to choose a more authentic response. As you deepen your awareness, consider how these patterns impact your relationships. Do you find yourself agreeing to things you don't want just to maintain harmony? Or do you hold back your true feelings for fear of conflict? Recognizing these tendencies provides a roadmap for restoring genuine connection and honesty. When you see patterns of imbalance, you can start to shift them by affirming your needs, setting clearer boundaries, or simply pausing before reacting. This process isn't about perfection, but about aligning your actions more closely with your true self, which naturally heals relationships over time. Restoring harmony also involves embracing your entire archetypal spectrum, including the shadows, the parts of yourself that may feel uncomfortable or unworthy. By turning awareness inward, you can begin healing wounds that fuel imbalance. For example, accepting your need for reassurance rather than suppressing it can create space for authentic connection. It's useful to remember that each archetype has a positive expression, strength, compassion, courage, that can be nurtured as part of the healing process. Cultivating mindfulness and compassion for yourself makes it easier to acknowledge areas that need growth without harsh self-criticism. Ultimately, the goal isn't to eliminate certain archetypes, but to bring them into harmony, allowing their qualities to serve you rather than sabotage you. When you understand the motivations behind your reactions, you gain clarity and power to shift towards more genuine, balanced ways of being. Being present with your patterns, rather than fighting against them, opens space for authentic growth and more meaningful connections in all areas of life. Small, consistent steps, like pausing before reacting or practicing self-compassion, can make profound differences over time, helping restore the natural flow of your inner energies. Practice the counsel within, guided visualization. Imagine sitting comfortably in a quiet space, eyes closed, taking slow, deliberate breaths. As you settle, picture yourself walking into a familiar, safe place. Perhaps a lush garden, a quiet forest, or a cozy room. This space is yours, designed by your mind to feel welcoming and secure. Now, see before you different figures. These are your inner archetypes or parts of yourself that hold unique perspectives, emotions, and beliefs. Begin by inviting one of these parts to step forward. It could be a worry, a critic, a protector, or a joyful aspect. You might see it as a person, an animal, or even an abstract symbol. As it appears, try to observe it without judgment. Notice its shape, color, sungyin, and posture. Ask it silently or aloud, "Who are you? What do you need me to know?" Allow this part to share in its own way, without rushing. This process can open a dialogue, where each part reveals its truths and intentions, even those we're often blind to or uncomfortable facing. Engaging in this visualization exercise repeatedly helps develop a deeper understanding of your internal landscape. Over time, you learn to recognize how different parts influence your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. You might discover a protective part that shields you from vulnerability or a critic that criticizes your efforts. Dialoguing with these parts through guided visualization offers a way to communicate directly with your internal world, helping you unearth hidden motivations and conflicts. This practice becomes a kind of internal conversation, fostering compassion and insight that can shape your personal growth. Once you've established a dialogue with your inner archetypes, the next step involves creating a space where these parts can meet, understand, and find common ground. This space is like a council chamber inside your mind, a place where conflicting parts can sit together without judgment, listen to each other, and work toward harmony. Visualize this space as a neutral zone, perhaps a round table surrounded by comfortable chairs or a quiet sanctuary. Invite your different parts to join this council, each given the chance to voice their concerns and ideas. In this imagined council, encourage each part to speak freely, expressing its needs, fears, or hopes. Acknowledge each voice with respect, recognizing that even the critical or defensive parts serve a purpose, such as protecting you from harm or preserving your values. The goal is not to eliminate these parts, but to understand their intentions and help them see how they can work together rather than against each other. As the facilitator, your role is to listen actively, ask clarifying questions, and guide the dialogue toward integration and balance. This form of internal communication fosters a sense of safety and cooperation among your parts. When conflicting parts are allowed to be heard and understood, they often become more cooperative and less reactive. Over time, this process can lead to a more unified inner voice, where different aspects of yourself support each other rather than fight for dominance. It's like creating a council where every voice is valued and consensus replaces internal discord. This practical approach helps you develop resilience, self-compassion, and clarity, especially in moments of stress or decision-making. As you continue practicing, you might notice that some parts that once caused turmoil become allies, providing wisdom and strength. The key is patience. These conversations are ongoing, and each session builds your capacity for inner harmony. Remember, every part wants to be heard and understood. Your task is to listen actively, show compassion, and gently guide these parts toward working together for your highest good. This inner counsel becomes a powerful resource for navigating life's challenges and nurturing your authentic self. Chapter 8. Mastery in the Real World. Using archetypes in leadership, love, parenting, and crisis. Understanding archetypes gives us a powerful lens through which we can interpret the actions, motivations, and patterns that emerge within our relationships and daily responsibilities. Imagine a parent tracking their child's emotional reactions, recognizing the archetypal patterns, such as the caregiver or the protector, can reveal why certain triggers activate strong responses. When we identify these recurring themes, we gain a clearer perspective on why conflicts occur or why certain responsibilities feel overwhelming. It's like having a mental map that highlights familiar terrain, allowing us to navigate with more clarity and less emotional turbulence. Recognizing archetypes in ourselves and others acts as a foundation for better communication. For example, if someone consistently embodies the hero archetype, they might push themselves to the brink, striving to solve every problem single-handedly. When we see this pattern, we can choose to step in with support or gently suggest they share the load, rather than pushing against their drive. In relationships, understanding archetypes helps us see beyond superficial behaviors to the deeper stories that drive them. This awareness can prevent misunderstandings from escalating and facilitate compassion, even when conflicts appear challenging on the surface. Applying archetypes isn't about labeling people or forcing them into boxes. Instead, it's about noticing the underlying patterns at play and choosing conscious responses. If a colleague often adopts the victim archetype when faced with setbacks, recognizing this pattern helps us respond with empathy rather than frustration. We can gently encourage perspective shifts, guiding them toward the creator or explorer archetypes that foster resilience and growth. This awareness provides a toolkit for managing complex dynamics with greater patience and insight, transforming potential friction into opportunities for connection and development. In practice, it's useful to reflect on your own life and identify which archetypes show up in various contexts. Have you ever felt like the innocent, wishing everything could just be simple? Or maybe the rebel, resisting authority because it feels constraining? Tracking these shifts allows you to better understand your reactions and choices during stressful moments. Over time, recognizing archetypal influences helps you cultivate a more compassionate view of yourself and others, acknowledging that everyone is guided by deep-seated patterns that shape their responses. Once we start recognizing the power of archetypes, we can begin harnessing these patterns intentionally to build trust and influence authentically. When you understand that a leader, for example, might embody the ruler archetype, you realize that they thrive on control and authority, but also have a deep desire to create stability and order. By aligning your communication to resonate with these motivations, perhaps by emphasizing shared goals or highlighting their role in maintaining stability, you foster connection and loyalty that is both genuine and impactful. Harnessing archetypal awareness allows you to respond thoughtfully in moments of crisis or uncertainty. During difficult conversations, knowing whether someone is mostly functioning from the caregiver or the warrior archetype helps you choose responses that respect their core needs. You might offer reassurance to the caregiver or challenge with respect to the warrior, tailoring your approach to create a safe environment for honest dialogue. Such sensitivity encourages openness and fosters trust, even when emotions run high. Being aware of archetypes can also strengthen resilience within teams or families. If a member exhibits the orphan archetype, feeling abandoned or disconnected, you can actively foster inclusion and belonging, helping them reconnect with the group's shared purpose. Similarly, recognizing the sage archetype in a mentor or elder invites opportunities for wisdom sharing and guidance, which can deepen bonds and promote mutual growth. This conscious use of archetypal patterns turns interactions into opportunities for influence rooted in authenticity rather than manipulation. Another practical way to harness archetypes is through storytelling. Sharing stories that embody specific archetypes helps others see themselves and their potential. For instance, telling a story of someone embodying the hero archetype overcoming adversity can inspire others to face their own challenges with courage. When you craft narratives aligned with archetypal themes, you tap into universal patterns that resonate deeply, creating a sense of shared understanding and trust that goes beyond words. In everyday life, this might look like a manager highlighting the strength of the creator in their team member, or a parent acknowledging the explorer spirit in their child when they seek new adventures. Recognizing and honoring these archetypal energies invites authenticity, inspiring others to act from their core strengths rather than external expectations. Over time, this builds a foundation of trust and resilience, empowering individuals and groups to tackle difficulties with a shared sense of purpose and confidence. Ultimately, using archetypes consciously enables us to influence situations and relationships in a way that's honest and respectful. It's about harnessing deeply rooted human stories to foster genuine connection, resilience, and personal growth. The more you become attuned to these patterns, the more natural it will feel to craft responses that nurture trust and inspire others to show up as their best selves. One simple tip is to pay attention to the stories you tell yourself and others, especially during conflicts or stressful moments. Notice if you're unconsciously leaning into a certain archetype, and consider how shifting your perspective or language can bring more balance and understanding. Recognizing these patterns in real time can transform friction into connection, opening the way for more authentic and impactful interactions. Emotional intelligence through archetypal awareness. Understanding archetypes opens a window into the core drives that shape human behavior. When we recognize that certain motivations cluster around specific archetypal themes, such as the hero's desire to overcome obstacles or the caregiver's need to nurture, we begin to see the world and ourselves with greater clarity. For example, if you notice a coworker frequently taking leadership roles in crises, you might see the underlying archetype of the warrior or the leader emerging, even if they haven't consciously identified with these labels. This awareness allows us to adopt a more compassionate perspective, realizing that actions often stem from deep-seated motivations rather than superficial choices. By understanding these archetypal motivations, we can better regulate our own emotional responses. When faced with challenging situations, recognizing our inherent archetype can illuminate why we adopt certain reactions. For instance, if you find yourself becoming overly defensive, it may be tied to the warrior archetype's instinct to protect boundaries. Recognizing this helps in managing your emotions rather than being carried away by them. Through this lens, reactions aren't random but are rooted in universal patterns that everyone experiences, making it easier to respond thoughtfully instead of impulsively. This process deepens empathy because it shifts focus from judging others' behaviors to understanding their underlying motivations. When you perceive someone's aggressive outburst as a manifestation of the rebel archetype resisting authority, you can respond with patience or curiosity instead of frustration. Similarly, when someone displays excessive self-sacrifice, it might be driven by archetypes like the caregiver or the martyr. Observing through this lens fosters connection by recognizing that beneath surface differences lie shared human patterns. Over time, this awareness enhances emotional intelligence, equipping us to navigate relationships with a mix of compassion and self-awareness. Building this empathy and self-regulation is not about labeling or pigeonholing people, but rather about seeing the universal currents flowing beneath diverse behaviors. It helps in cultivating patience, reducing reactive tendencies, and fostering genuine understanding. Regular reflection on archetypes during moments of emotional tension can act as a compass, guiding us toward responses rooted in awareness rather than knee-jerk reactions. As you get comfortable with this perspective, managing your emotional landscape becomes more natural and your capacity for compassionate presence expands. Archetypes aren't just personal introspection tools, they are powerful aids in fostering authentic connections and leading with compassion. When leaders, or anyone in a position of influence, consciously recognize and embody archetypal qualities, they create environments where others feel seen and understood. For example, a leader who embodies the sage archetype communicates wisdom and patience, inspiring others to trust and open up. Similarly, A leader who channels the nurturer archetype fosters safety and support, encouraging teams to collaborate and take risks without fear. In everyday interactions, awareness of archetypes can soften conflict and deepen relationships. If someone responds defensively, recognizing their inner primary archetype, perhaps the orphan or the rebel, can inform your response. Rather than reacting with frustration, you may offer reassurance or empathy tailored to their underlying needs, like acknowledging their fears or their desire for fairness. This kind of nuanced understanding helps build bridges in conversations and fosters mutual respect. Using archetypes also encourages us to see beyond surface behaviors and recognize the strengths and struggles inherent in different archetypal expressions. For example, the king archetype, often associated with authority and stability, can sometimes tip into tyranny if misunderstood or unchecked. Recognizing this, a leader who embodies the king's leadership and fairness can empower others, creating a culture of trust. If we approach others with curiosity about their archetypal drivers, it becomes easier to connect on an honest level and offer support or challenge appropriately. This approach transforms leadership from a role of control to one of shared human experience. It invites us to see colleagues, friends, or family members as individuals navigating their own archetypal patterns, often trying to fulfill essential human needs. When we listen through this lens, it opens the door to compassionate dialogue, reducing blame and judgment. The result is a more harmonious environment where connection is based on understanding, not assumptions or superficial labels. To put this into practice, consider regularly reflecting on the archetypes you see in yourself and others. When conflicts arise, ask, what archetype might be driving this behavior? Or what does this person need right now? This simple shift in perspective can profoundly change the way you respond and relate, turning everyday interactions into opportunities for deeper connection and leadership rooted in genuine care. Over time, this practice not only enhances your emotional intelligence, but also elevates your capacity to lead and connect authentically in both personal and professional spheres. Not perfection, but deepened presence. Imagine watching a gymnast perform a perfect routine, every move precise and timed perfectly, yet feeling something missing, a sense that the performance lacks heart. Now picture a dancer who stumbles occasionally but radiates passion, connection, and authenticity. That performance reaches you on a deeper level. This shift from chasing perfection to embracing genuine engagement is a subtle but powerful change we often overlook. It's about honoring the messiness and vulnerability inherent in being human, instead of striving for an unattainable ideal of flawlessness that can leave us disconnected from ourselves and others. In essence, it's about allowing ourselves to be fully present with all our imperfections and trusting that true connection comes through authenticity rather than perfection. When we focus solely on being perfect, we often become preoccupied with how we appear or how well we perform, which can lead to anxiety and superficial interactions. Instead, cultivating a deepened presence involves tuning into our inner experience and engaging with life's moments honestly. For example, in conversations, it's more meaningful to listen fully, with curiosity and openness, than to craft the perfect reply. In creative pursuits, embracing mistakes and imperfections can spark more genuine expression and growth. The goal is to learn to value depth over polish, acknowledging that real, soulful engagement invites vulnerability, a cornerstone for meaningful relationships. This shift doesn't mean lowering standards, but rather redefining success to include the richness of authenticity and connection. Practicing this mindset requires becoming aware of the subtle ways we chase after perfection. Checking for flaws, over-editing our work, second-guessing every move in social situations. Instead, try pausing to ask yourself where your attention resides. Are you attuned to how things truly feel, or are you more concerned with how things look? Engaging in mindfulness exercises such as focusing on your breath or observing your surroundings without judgment can help anchor you in the present moment. Remember, embracing vulnerability and imperfections often creates space for deeper understanding and trust, not only with others but also within ourselves. When we shift our perception from judgment to curiosity, every interaction becomes an invitation for genuine connection, transforming how we experience ourselves and those around us. Many people grow up thinking that mastery means reaching a fixed point of flawless competence. They reach milestones, achieve goals, and then assume their journey is complete. But mastery isn't about arriving at a perfect destination. It's about continuously learning, evolving, and deepening our understanding of ourselves and our craft. Think of a seasoned musician who still practices daily, not because they're not good enough, but because they recognize that each day offers a new layer of growth. This perspective fosters patience and humility, allowing us to see failures and setbacks as essential aspects of the learning process. In this view, flaws aren't signs of failure. They're signposts guiding us toward deeper insight and skill. Understanding mastery as an ongoing process shifts our focus from performance goals rooted in external validation to internal development. We begin to appreciate small improvements, changes in mindset, and the willingness to experiment without fear of failure. For example, a writer may revisit a piece repeatedly, not to perfect it, but to discover new nuances and insights. This approach also alleviates the pressure to be perfect in every moment, freeing us to explore and take risks. When we accept that growth involves iteration and vulnerability, we're more likely to stay committed, even when progress seems slow or discouraging. Viewing mastery this way encourages a gentle patience and a curiosity that keeps us engaged long after initial achievements fade into the background. Practicing this mindset involves celebrating your progress, no matter how small, and reframing mistakes as opportunities. Keep a journal of your ongoing journey, noting lessons learned and areas of improvement. Remind yourself that mastery is a lifelong adventure, marked by curiosity and a willingness to adapt. Recognize that everyone, even experts, has moments of uncertainty and doubt. That's part of being human. Cultivating this perspective fosters resilience and gradually blends growth with humility, allowing genuine confidence to emerge from a foundation of ongoing learning rather than fleeting perfection. Ultimately, embracing the idea that mastery is a continuous process opens the door to a more compassionate and fulfilling relationship with your personal development and creative pursuits. Journal. Which archetype needs more of my attention? Understanding which archetypes demand your attention begins with an honest look inward. Often, parts of ourselves, like the caregiver, the warrior, or the innocent, may have been overlooked or undernourished amid life's chaos. These neglected facets don't usually disappear. Instead, they might manifest through recurring patterns of frustration, fatigue, or feeling disconnected from certain emotions. For instance, if you find yourself constantly sacrificing your needs for others without feeling fulfilled, it could signal that your warrior or protector archetype isn't sufficiently activated or balanced. Similarly, an inner sense of stagnation might highlight the need to reconnect with your creator or explorer. Take time to notice the subtle signs your inner world gives. These are clues pointing toward areas that need more love, attention, and understanding. Recognizing imbalance isn't about criticizing yourself, but about opening the door to self-awareness and growth. Much like tending to a garden where some plants may be thriving while others are wilting and need care. This reflection process can be supported by journaling prompts that ask questions like, which parts of me feel neglected or silenced? Or when do I feel most authentic, and which parts are missing during those moments? Paying close attention to your emotional responses, recurring thoughts, or physical sensations can reveal which archetypes are out of sync. For example, persistent feelings of self-doubt may point toward an underdeveloped hero or warrior, while feelings of apathy may hint at a missing passionate or creative archetype. Sometimes you'll notice patterns that surface during stressful situations, where certain inner voices dominate, overshadowing others. These moments can serve as valuable checkpoints, helping you identify where imbalance resides and what needs more nurturing to restore harmony within your psyche. Remember that this is a continuous process, a kind of inner inventory that guides your development over time, fostering compassion rather than self-criticism. Once you've identified which archetypes need your focus, the next step involves crafting a gentle, practical plan to support their growth. Think of this as designing a personalized training routine tailored to strengthen specific inner qualities. Start by setting clear, achievable intentions, like, I will listen more carefully to my emotional needs, or I will take deliberate actions to express my creativity. Incorporate small, mindful practices into your daily life that directly engage these archetypes. For example, if you want to deepen your caregiver, volunteer to help someone in need or practice acts of kindness. To bolster your warrior, set boundaries or engage in physical activities that reinforce strength and resilience. If the creator or explorer calls to you, dedicate time to creative projects or explore new environments. The key is consistency, not perfection. Small daily actions accumulate into meaningful inner shifts. This process also involves compassion as you work through setbacks, recognizing that growth isn't linear, but a series of gentle nudges forward combined with self-forgiveness. It can also help to create a visual or symbolic reminder of your intentions, like placing affirmations on your mirror or keeping a small object that symbolizes the archetype you're working with. As you progress, check in regularly with yourself, asking, "What's working? And where do I feel resistance?" Revisiting these questions keeps your plan flexible and aligned with your evolving needs. Over time, nourishing neglected archetypes gradually restores a sense of balance and wholeness. Remember, developing these inner parts isn't a race, but a gift, an ongoing conversation with yourself that encourages patience and curiosity. When you nurture one archetype, you often find that others begin to grow more naturally, creating a more cohesive, authentic inner landscape. Conclusion: your inner kingdom. Mastery is remembering. Mastery is often thought of as acquiring skill or expertise in a specific area, but at its core, it is much more than just competence. True mastery starts when you reconnect with who you truly are beneath the layers of societal expectations, learned behaviors, and habitual patterns. Imagine a person who has spent years climbing the ladder of success, yet feels a nagging emptiness, a sense that they never quite touched their authentic self. This disconnect is common because many of us get caught up in roles, titles, or external accomplishments that obscure our innate nature. Reclaiming your true nature involves peeling back these layers and sensing what is at your core. It's about listening inward, beyond the thoughts and judgments, to that quiet space where your genuine feelings, values, and essence reside. This process is not about transforming yourself into someone new, but rather about shedding the masks and illusions that hide your real self. When you begin to understand that mastery is about remembering who you genuinely are, the journey becomes less about striving and more about unfolding and accepting. One way to approach this is through reflection and conscious awareness. Setting aside time to notice your patterns, triggers, and the parts of yourself you usually ignore helps you rebuild a connection. For example, if you notice recurring feelings of frustration or inadequacy, ask yourself what underlying need or belief might be driving that emotion. Recognizing these hidden aspects is the first step toward reclaiming your authenticity. When you start to see yourself clearly, you realize that mastery is less about external validation and more about aligning with your true essence, your natural state of being that has always existed beneath the layers of conditioning. Visualize your mind and inner landscape as a vast kingdom, populated by different archetypal figures, parts of yourself that influence your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Some archetypes might be the wise old sage, guiding you with knowledge. Others might be the critic, constantly questioning your worth. There might also be the protector, nurturing your boundaries, or the rebel, challenging conformity. Recognizing these archetypes as parts of your inner kingdom transforms the way you relate to yourself. Instead of fighting or suppressing certain aspects, you begin to see them as loyal servants with specific roles. As the ruler of this inner realm, your goal is to understand and govern these archetypes so that they work together toward your highest good. This mindset shift moves you away from being at the mercy of unconscious impulses. It encourages a perspective of conscious partnership, acknowledging each archetype's value while guiding them with intention. For instance, when the critic becomes overly harsh, you can step in as the wise ruler, understanding its concern but preventing it from undermining your confidence. Building this internal hierarchy allows you to maintain clarity and stability amidst the inevitable chaos of inner conflicts. Practically, this involves developing a relationship with each archetype through dialogue or reflection. Asking questions like, "What are you here for?" or "What do you need from me right now?" helps create awareness and rapport. Over time, you cultivate a sense that you are not powerless, but instead hold the authority to channel these parts constructively. When all archetypes serve your pursuit of growth and alignment, your internal kingdom becomes a landscape where mastery is not just about skills, but also about cultivating harmony within. This internal governance ensures that your decisions are rooted in authenticity and purpose, making your journey toward mastery deeply personal and sustainable. An essential part of this process is practicing patience as you learn to listen and respond with compassion. Recognize that these archetypes developed over years, sometimes decades, so modifying their influence takes time and gentle effort. But every moment spent understanding and integrating them brings you closer to a state where your inner realm becomes a source of strength rather than chaos. Through this, mastery becomes a matter of living in harmony within yourself, where each part contributes to your overall well-being and growth, guided by your conscious awareness. Remember, mastery is not about domination of your inner world, but about creating an environment where all aspects of yourself can thrive in balance. When you view yourself as the benevolent ruler of this inner kingdom, you reclaim your authority and open the door to a deeper, more genuine mastery, one rooted in truth, harmony, and acceptance. When you live from balance, the world responds differently. When you foster a sense of inner balance, it often feels like your world begins to shift in subtle but noticeable ways. Imagine someone waking up each day with a calm mind and a peaceful heart. Their mood naturally influences how they interact with others. For instance, taking a moment in the morning for mindfulness or deep breathing sets a tone of steadiness. This inner harmony becomes a foundation that radiates outward, affecting relationships and the space around you in ways you might not immediately realize. People around you tend to pick up on your energy, often unconsciously mirroring your state. When you embody calm and centeredness, conflicts tend to resolve more quickly, waits feel less frustrating, and even strangers might respond more warmly. This is because your presence acts like a calming breeze that softens tension. Such ripple effects expand beyond individual interactions. Your home, work environment, or community can begin to feel more aligned and peaceful, almost as if the atmosphere itself dances to your inner rhythm. By simply cultivating your own inner balance, you contribute to a more harmonious and inviting space for everyone. Often, we overlook how deeply our internal state affects external circumstances. Small shifts, like practicing gratitude, forgiving yourself for past mistakes, or choosing to pause before reacting, create a shift in energy. This isn't just about feeling better, it influences the collective vibe. Think of the butterfly effect, in which a gentle flap of the wing can set off a series of changes. When your inner world stabilizes, the world around you responds in unexpected ways, opening doors to new opportunities, smoother interactions, and a sense of alignment that feels almost magnetic. Living from a place of genuine balance often brings a natural sense of ease into daily life. When you're aligned with your true self, your values, desires, and unique qualities, life begins to feel less like a struggle and more like a flow. This authenticity helps you approach situations with more confidence because you're not pretending or trying to fit into others' expectations. Instead, you act from a heartfelt place, and that sincerity attracts similar energies back to you. It's like tuning into your own frequency and noticing how everything around you resonates differently. As you deepen your connection with your authentic self, magic seems to happen more frequently. Small moments of synchronicity, like finding the right words at the right time or meeting someone unexpectedly who offers exactly what you need, become more common. These are signs that you're living in harmony with your true nature. You start to see beauty and opportunities in everyday experiences, turning mundane routines into sources of inspiration. By aligning with your core, you're also creating space for joy, spontaneity, and a sense that life is unfolding exactly as it should. This process of embodying your genuine self is powerful because it transforms how you experience yourself and the world. It's not about perfection or having all the answers, but about being honest with yourself about who you are. As you do this, you'll notice you're less affected by external judgments or setbacks. Instead, you cultivate a quiet confidence rooted in self-awareness. This authenticity naturally attracts like-minded souls and opportunities, making life feel more meaningful and rich. The more you trust your true self, the more life seems to support you, revealing an almost effortless path forward. To bring these insights into your everyday life, consider starting with small acts of self-honoring. Whether that's setting boundaries, speaking your truth, or simply taking time for reflection. These simple steps affirm your authenticity and reinforce your inner balance. Over time, you'll begin to notice a shift not just within, but also in how your world responds, creating a cycle of harmony that continues to grow with each authentic expression. The key is consistency. Each moment you choose alignment adds to the ripple of ease and magic flowing outward. Leave the war within, build the throne inside. Imagine someone standing at the edge of a turbulent river, trying to cross without falling into the stormy current. That image captures what it feels like when we are caught in internal conflicts. Voices that oppose each other, fears that hold us back, doubts that erode confidence. Moving from that chaos to a state of inner sovereignty requires a deliberate process of awakening to what is happening inside. It begins with developing awareness, which is essentially observing yourself without blame or judgment. Recognizing your inner dialogues, emotional reactions, and subconscious patterns allows you to understand the roots of your conflicts. For example, you might notice that your inner critic is louder whenever you face a new challenge, or that feelings of inadequacy pop up when you're asked to speak in public. Instead of resisting or fighting these feelings, cultivating curiosity about them creates the space to see them clearly. This awareness acts as a bridge because it increases your capacity to step back, dissociate from the turbulence, and begin to see yourself more objectively. The next step involves practicing kindness, offering compassion to yourself about your struggles instead of blaming or shaming. When you accept that these conflicting parts are trying to protect you or serve some hidden purpose, it becomes easier to build a more supportive inner environment. Over time, this process diminishes the power of internal conflicts, replacing chaos with clarity and establishing a sense of inner sovereignty, where you are the one who observes, decides, and guides your inner world. This shift is deeply rooted in the understanding that your true self is not the voice of doubt or fear, but the awareness that perceives these voices without identifying with them. Creating a stable inner leadership that guides every part of your life starts with cultivating a sense of protector within yourself, an inner voice of wisdom that remains calm amid storms. Think of this inner leader as a wise parent or mentor who listens carefully, offers gentle guidance, and holds space for all parts of you. Developing this leadership involves consistent practices of self-reflection, such as journaling or meditation, where you consciously connect with this guiding voice. When you face a decision or emotional upheaval, rather than reacting impulsively, pause and ask, "What would this wise part advise?" This simple question can redirect your energy from chaos toward clarity and help you act from a place of steadiness. Often, this leadership grows stronger when you set boundaries within yourself, acknowledging which parts need acknowledgement and which need to be gently set aside. For example, the inner critic might need reassurance that its concerns are heard, but it shouldn't dictate your choices. Building this inner leadership also involves practicing consistent integrity with your values, ensuring your actions align with your deeper sense of purpose. As this leadership stabilizes, it creates a foundation for dependability, trust, and emotional resilience, allowing all other areas of your life, relationships, work, health, to benefit from this inner stability. Over time, your internal world begins to mirror the structure you've established within, a calm, loving, and wise authority that directs your overall well-being. The journey is lifelong, but your archetypes walk with you always. Understanding that self-mastery is not a final destination, but rather a continual process helps shift how we approach growth. It is about consistently remembering who we truly are beyond the layers of stories, fears, and conditioning that have accumulated over time. Each day offers opportunities to notice when old patterns reemerge, giving us a moment to choose differently, to realign with our deeper truths. This process invites us to view ourselves as lifelong students, always learning and integrating new insights about our inner landscape. As we deepen this awareness, we begin to see that mastery isn't about perfection, but about gentle persistence, embracing every setback as part of the growth rather than a sign of failure. This ongoing journey is like tending a garden that never truly reaches full bloom. Some days we see progress, and other days weeds seem to take over. The key is to remain attentive, nurturing the parts of ourselves that need healing, and welcoming the discomfort as a sign of transformation. Remember, each struggle carries a lesson. Each moment of tension points to an opportunity for inner remembrance. The process of deepening our awareness becomes a dance of patience and compassion, where we recognize that the process itself is the reward. In this way, self-mastery becomes less about pushing towards an end goal and more about honoring our growth at every step. Viewing archetypes as lifelong companions transforms how we relate to ourselves and others. An archetype is like a universal pattern or energy that resides within us, shaping our behaviors, motivations, and responses. When we acknowledge these archetypes, they stop feeling like distant labels and start becoming familiar parts of our inner landscape. For example, the warrior archetype may show up as courage in moments of challenge, or the caregiver might surface when we nurture loved ones or ourselves. Recognizing these traits as ongoing companions allows us to work with them consciously, rather than being driven or limited by unconscious patterns. It's akin to having a trusted guide who walks with us through the different phases of life, reminding us of our inner strengths and areas needing healing. As we evolve, these archetypes continue to activate in various ways, offering insight into our reactions and choices. An old archetype may sometimes cause us to act out of fear or control, but once we identify it as a familiar pattern, we can choose to respond differently. For instance, a shadow warrior might push us into aggressive confrontations until we recognize the underlying fears of vulnerability. Seeing archetypes as lifelong allies encourages us to get to know their flavors, both light and shadow, as part of our ongoing development. Over time, this awareness helps us navigate life with more clarity, compassion, and authenticity, knowing that these internal guides are here to support our growth rather than hinder it. Remember, the key is to develop a curious attitude toward your archetypes. Instead of judging yourself for their appearances, welcome them as messengers that reveal deeper truths about your inner world. Spend time in reflection or journaling to identify which archetypes are active in your life and how they influence your decisions. Recognize patterns from childhood, past relationships, or life experiences that reinforce certain archetypes. With consistent practice, your relationship to these inner guides deepens, transforming them from unconscious patterns into conscious allies on your journey of inner evolution. Eventually, you'll find that these archetypes are not just parts of you. They are guides that illuminate your unique path forward. A practical tip is to create a small archetype journal where you note moments when a particular archetype shows up. Write about how it influences your feelings and actions, and then reflect on whether its presence serves your highest good or if it needs shifting. This creates a living map of your internal landscape, empowering you to work intentionally with these recurring energies rather than being swept away by them. Over time, this level of awareness becomes part of your natural rhythm, a trusted companion helping you stay rooted in your true self amidst life's constant changes. Thank you for walking this path. If something in these pages resonated with a quiet part of you, it means the work has already begun. Remember, self-mastery is not a destination, but a devotion. When you live in alignment with these archetypes, you're not just improving your life, you're healing generations of men who forgot their sacred place in the world. The king blesses, the warrior protects, the magician transforms, the lover feels, and together, they build the inner kingdom the world so desperately needs. If this book stirred something in you, share it. Leave a review. Pass the flame forward. And until we meet again, sit on your throne with honor, walk with fire in your chest, and love with eyes wide open. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more men who remember.